Good evening, everyone. I now call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Burlington Electric Commission held on the second Wednesday of the month, 5 p.m. here at 585 Pine Street. Today is October 8th and the time is 5:06. Let the record reflect that a quorum is present. All right. The first topic is approval of the agenda. Commissioners, have you received the agenda? Is there any proposed amendments? Okay.
I move to accept the agenda.
Second.
Okay. We have an accepted agenda. Next is the approval of the minutes. The minutes from our previous meeting held on September 10th have been distributed. Any corrections? Do I have a motion for approval?
Move to accept as presented.
A second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Okay, next we're going to move into the public comment period. We'll now open the floor for public comment. I believe we have one person, and we'll welcome you to the floor.
Hello, thank you very much. Alan Berkey from Burlington. I'm here, not surprisingly, on miscellaneous fees. I have seen the proposal, and I appreciate that now the fee for transferring pursuant to a standing order has actually gone down a little bit to $5. And I encourage you to support this and make this happen. But I would also specifically ask the department if they could commit to getting this done, filed with the PUC. You can't control after that, but filed with the PUC by the December meeting, which is 2 months from now. So perhaps he'll answer, perhaps he'll want to put it in his general comments, but that's what I would ask. And if they would, if there's any reason why that couldn't happen, then, you know, perhaps condition your approval of the fees with a request that they do it by your meeting in the second week of December. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in and your comments. Appreciate it. Anybody else online? Nope. Okay. All right. We now have a new agenda topic, which we're excited about, a monthly impact minute.
And maybe I just take a quick second and say that as chair of the Lund board, I have completely stolen this idea from our Lund meetings where we have something called the mission minute. But this will be an opportunity where we'll try to bring members of our team who you may not always hear from at commission meetings to share an accomplishment or a highlight from their work. And we have Mike Flora here, who's been with the commission a number of times, but maybe not recently, to talk about the R99 testing. I'm informed that Mike has 7 slides. He has 10 seconds per slide, given the minute time frame. And I know Paul Alexander will be watching.
I'm well aware the stopwatch is on me, and there's 11 people waiting to speak. So I did the slides to organize myself, because if I start rambling, you guys are in big trouble. So this is for me. But as Darren, thank you for that introduction. I'm Mike Flora. I'm Director of Safety and Environmental. I have been here before. May he rest in peace, but I used to turn Jim Reardon's slides for him.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I was his slide turner, and I was privileged to do it. I've been with the city total about 21 years. And I would claim that I have one of the most diverse jobs here at BED. 1 minute I'm on the train trestle, next minute I'm working on a leaky transformer in a utility hole. The next minute I'm a pandemic safety officer doing contact tracing. So, and pretty much I touch every department and every person here. So I'm honored to do that. So, but let's get right into what Darren asked me to come update you on. We're about halfway through, but this was a big step for us. This is known as R99 renewable diesel, and what you'll see on the side are actual pictures of the gas turbine that I had taken to kind of give you some context. So renewable diesel, about a year ago, I sat on a coalition's committee meeting, and R99 came up from Oakland. City of Oakland presented it. California's all over it. New York City's all over it. So it's coming to the East Coast, and it's plentiful. It's in the Rensselaer terminal. So we brought it to Darren. And he said, do it. So we petitioned. So we had our test run dates on 9/17 and 9/18. But what is renewable diesel? It's chemically similar. It's the same as conventional diesel. It runs in stationary diesel engines. It's a drop-in fuel. It can run in truck engines. It's a biomass product. It's produced from a renewable source like cooking oil, animal fats, and agricultural byproducts. The difference between biodiesel and renewable diesel is the way it's treated. The feedstock is hydrotreated, meaning the impurities are removed, which means less emissions, right? So how they're removed, it's a high-pressure hydrogen in a catalytic reactor at high temperatures. They're basically forced out. You have the hydrogenation process, which removes the oxygen molecule from the molecules, thus converting it to usable hydrocarbons, all right? So we went to the state last year. This has been a year-long process. The summer of 2024, we petitioned the Vermont Air Quality Climate Division to add 99. They said, fine, but you're going to have to prove it out. So they gave us a test window, a test run. Took us a year to get it together, which was the right thing to do. The state requires us to fall within our, what they're requiring us from the results in order to allow into the permit is that it falls under our current allowable air contaminant in our current permit, our gas turbine operating permit, which I just gave you a snapshot of what our contaminant emissions are allowed in tons per year. Also, they wanted us to prove out testing required in polycyclical aromatic hydrocarbons, butadiene, benzene, and formaldehyde. So we ran all those tests. So first thing we did, here are the benefits, environmental advantages, as I spoke. R99 has a high cetan number. Cetan number is ignition quality of the diesel fuel. It's how quickly it auto-ignites under compression. The higher the cetan number means the shorter delay in turning on and coming up to full capacity. It also has a low cloud point, which prevents gelling in colder weather, which is very much a benefit in the Northeast for us. Reduced maintenance costs. We won't be able to predict those for a year or two probably, but we do know already, and my man Lincoln's here, he had Seltzer Engineering here, and what they did note already is the fuel nozzles had zero carbon buildup on them, as opposed to when we run diesel, they have carbon buildup. So that was good news when we were monitoring. As I said, it's a drop-in fuel, and this is the scaffolding that we built. We had to build it up on a slanted roof, so we had challenges there, but we had 4 test ports right here that the crew had to work from. This is known as the umbilical. The umbilical was they would send test results down to the testing trailer. And here's the crew. This is from TRC. This is the environmental crew.
So that's for the emissions testing.
That's where it
Yeah.
actually happened. This is known as CT1, stack 1. This is CT2. The state only required us to test out of one stack, CT1. We call them stacks, chimneys, the same thing. So there were 4 ports that they had to open that probably hadn't been opened in 40 years. So there was a little hold your breath on that one. So we called it Burn Week. So Burn Week, and we called it Field of Burn. We were doing all sorts of things with it. So Monday was 9:15. We had scaffolding built on the stack on CT1. We had a 21,000-gallon temporary tank delivered. We put containment around it. We placed security fencing around it. TRC, who the environmental firm who does our RADA down in McNeil, came to set up a portable lab, and I'll show that to you in a second. They deployed Monday afternoon. We set them up. Tuesday, we brought in 2 fuel delivery trucks, 9,500 gallons apiece. We filled the tank. The environmental group set up on the scaffolding. That's the environmental crew. The first test run we did on Wednesday. It took us 4.5 hours. We noted that the average internal stack temperature was about 863 degrees. What did that mean? They have 10-foot wands that they can't get too close to the stack, so they had to go push in to do their sampling. Also, we had to rotate. There were 6 technicians from TRC, and it was a hot day, and it was hot around that stack, so we'd safely. That's the good news about being Director of Safety and Environmental. You know both. You watch over both of these things. Then we realized afterwards that we needed 1 more truck, so we took a 3rd fuel delivery on Thursday morning. We did a 2nd test run that day, which was 5.5 hours. We got all our data. Lincoln took charge of the post-run inspection, and we did a boroscope, basically a camera inside, to look at the components afterwards. And then we did demobilization on Friday. So that was our week. It was a heck of a week. It was a heck of a long week, but it was a great team effort. So here's the environmental trailer I was talking about, TRC. This is the other end of the umbilical and samples. So this is where they bring the samples in. They do a little analysis, but they were prepped for the lab, and they've been sent out to the lab, and that's where they sit today. Here's just a picture of the fuel tank. We had 21,000 gallons, but in the fuel world, we had to take into factor that fuel expands, especially on a hot day. So we had to reduce our capacity by 10%. So we knew we only could take on about 19,000 gallons.
And
We al-
where is it normally stored, the fuel?
Inside, in a 100,000 gallon tank. We call it on the beach because the environmental containment, it's in sand, it's in a tank room with rubber, everything. So the normal tank is 100,000 gallons inside.
So in theory, you could fill that whole tank with R99?
We could,
Yeah.
we could. And what we learned very quickly is we had to intercept the recirc line. That's the unused fuel that the jet uses, and we recirculated it to the back. So we had to go into the floor, run a temporary feed into that so it would recirculate on itself so we could use the whole fuel. Almost done. So the safety part of it, we did a site safety plan. We had daily morning briefings to include PPE, hearing protection, heat exhaustion, work plan assignments, GT status, meaning out of service. We had to take it out with ISO New England. It couldn't be dispatchable. It had to be locked out and tagged out, so system operations could not operate it. So we had to transfer safety rules. So we had our own meeting, but then we had meetings with the environmental firm, the Republic Services, which was the environmental firm, and Sulzer Engineering. We conducted morning scaffolding inspections, which is a requirement. We did orders to take the GT out of service, and then everybody involved performed well. So just to end, is next steps, we're waiting on lab results, which will be in the environmental testing report, which we expect mid to late November. From there, the results and permit modification will be submitted to the state of Vermont, which we anticipate will be 4 to 5 month process, if all goes well. So far, so good. And I want to end because this has nothing to do with me. I was the organizer of the spreadsheet, and I'm just doing the presentation. But I'm going to just name some people, if you just give me a second, that approximately 20 people worked on this project. It was Ross Predum, who's our senior environmental specialist, Jake Langelier, who's our working crew leader, Al Mayville, who's a working crew leader of engineering, Ben Langelier, generation tech, Dave Tebow, generation mechanic, Mikey Herron, director of generation, Pine Street operators, Justin Morse and Luke Hulbert, generation electricians, Fritz Howard, generation engineer, Paulie Charbonneau, director of purchasing and facilities, Lincoln Sprague right behind me, director of generation engineering maintenance, the McNeil supervisors, Emily and Amanda. We learned quickly through them that with the difference between clear dyed and red dye fuel and the taxable consequences of, that was a on-the-fly learning. And actually Darren and Manir, who took a couple emergency panic phone calls from me. They're always accessible. Darren always tells me to take a breath and then explain what's going on, and then he lets me roll with it. So that's it. If anybody has any questions, how'd I do?
Monthly impact minutes, plural, but you did great.
I'm sure I know somebody's going to text me in about 2 minutes how I did. So,
Thank you, Mike.
any questions for me?
Just quickly, beside the lab results, was there anything else you learned that would either change your opinion of whether you want to use in the future?
I think going back to just what we'll learn too is noting the fuel nozzles, the carbon buildup, and Lincoln is working with the jet engineers. When doing the borescope, we'll learn more about how it affected the gaskets, the nozzles, and the internal workings. Because, boy, if this runs as clean as we hope it, you can save some dollars on the maintenance costs and stuff like this, and the useful life of the jet engine. So we're pretty darn excited about this, and we're excited. We call it a win so far. So, but it's a long season on this one, so it's a 7-game series. How's that?
So if the results are good from the lab tests and everything,
Yeah.
so it would happen over the next year or so that you'd burn down all the fuel, all the regular diesel that's there, replace, what's the sort of long-term picture?
Good
of
news,
this?
we don't have to burn it down. We can just
Yeah.
mix it. It's that drop-in
I see.
component.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, eventually we would burn out our B20 and stuff like this, but we're, depending on the viscosity of the fuel, if we're seeing a little more dry, we might blend a little B20 in for lubrication purposes, but I think we're just gonna have to adjust that as going forward. But we think the R99 will work well by itself. But I think that the drop, and this is what California's all over, New York's all over, and all the Department of Public Works and all the folks, they're just dropping in fuel, and these diesel trucks are using it. And it's exciting times, so, we're doing this, and we're on the cutting edge here in Vermont as far as a stationary engine. We will be the first. So,
What's the sourcing outlook on it? Is it expected to be easy to get and pricing?
Tough to say, but if New York City
Right.
is in on it and the Californias of the world in on it, the demand there, and knowing like Sprague Energy and the terminals that we deal with, they'll supply it. And they're just down in Rensselaer, and I don't say just, they're 3.5 hours away. We had trucks leaving at 4 a.m. to come up to fuel here, so, but they are well aware and they know if it's the bigger cities that are gonna drive this. So we'll be the benefactor of this. So I think supply will be plentiful. And you know what? If it gets short a little bit, then we go to the B20 and we toggle back and forth. Because once we get something in our permit, we're allowed to do that, so.
That doesn't change or does it, the frequency of use? I mean, the thing doesn't get used maybe, a couple times a year or whatever, just for, my understanding was that it mostly just gets fired up here and there to
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're,
prove to ISO that we have it, it's capable, it's dispatchable, whatnot.
two
But-
things. I mean, I track the hours and I track the fuel consumption, so it's known as a peaker unit. So, yeah, we have to show it's reliable and ready, but also times we'll get dispatched on for additional load requirements or additional load requests. So, stuff like that. So it doesn't change that at all. We'll be ready and we'll be prepared, so.
You good,
we should-
commissioners? Well,
We should take a picture of the actual jet engines, because they're kind of cool.
There's some things I don't take a picture of because I don't want to get in trouble, so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. That was
Yeah.
fantastic. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Thanks, Barry,
Thank
that's
you.
great.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
All right. Next up on the agenda is the Commissioner's Corner. I'm not sure if anyone had any comments or things they wanted to raise. Reminder, we do have the commissioners check-in at the end as well. Hearing nothing, I'm going to move us on to the next agenda topic, which is General Manager Springer's update.
All right. Thank you very much. So the top item here, which hopefully the commissioners all saw the news about, was our EV incentive update on September 22nd. We had a really nice event here at Pine Street with the mayor, with representatives from the federal delegation, the Sierra Club, some great fifth graders from Champlain Elementary, 3 of whom spoke incredibly eloquently about electric vehicles, so we were pleased to join with all of them. So as of October 1st, our incentive went from being $2,300 to $5,000, and for income qualified customers from $3,000 to $5,700. And then if you happen to be a high mileage driver, you can qualify for even a larger incentive there due to that special program. But we're not fully replacing the federal tax credit. We don't really have the ability to do that, but we are offering our best ever incentive as that federal credit expires. So hopefully customers who are interested in EVs continue to be able to access them. We saw, I think, pretty significant uptake in the month or two leading up to the expiration of the credit. I note our EV numbers in here are well over 1,100. We just hit 1,000 fairly recently, so we had some pretty good movement in terms of EV rebates. And hopefully this will keep things going along with some of the programs that the automakers themselves are offering. A few of them are trying to help extend discounts that equate to the federal credit. So hopefully customers looking will still be able to get a vehicle. One important piece, I heard a few questions about this. This is being funded through our TEPF funds, which are available through legislation to be used for things like the electric vehicle rebates. So this is not being funded from general rates. It's from our state participation in RGGI and our bidding of energy efficiency into the ISO forward market. So this is a really good use for those funds to help with Burlington's EV adoption. Next item, at the TUC meeting on September 30th, we had the presentation of the forestry report from John Bryant. We've included it here in your packet as well. He, I think, gave a fairly lengthy presentation at the TUC, which is available online if you're interested, and answered some questions. I think it was an exemplary report, really spoke well of our foresters and the work that they do in the community to make sure that all the standards are being followed, that we're being really thoughtful about the harvesting, and that we're working well with our suppliers. There were a number of comments, anecdotal comments from suppliers speaking to the value that McNeil provides for them. The other piece was there was some good conversation, I think, around the idea that those harvests are occurring essentially anyhow. and that our value doesn't drive the decision to harvest. It really is an ancillary piece, however important it might be. And so I encourage the commission to review the report. If there are questions, we're happy to facilitate additional outreach to John Bryant. The other report, the Valerity report, we had a meeting with Valerity today, and they're hoping to present a final report at the October TUC meeting, which will be at the end of the month, in which case we can include it for the November packet for the commission. Looking forward to that as well. R99 we just covered, thanks to Mike. He's still here? There he is. So I won't go into more detail on that, other than to say I was really pleased with the team effort that we had. I was able to go down just for a few minutes and check it out while it was live, and my great hope is that we'll be able to convert that facility to R99. It's the last fossil fuel facility, partly fossil fuel because it's on 20% biodiesel. As you noted, Commissioner Moody, it runs almost no time at all. But even with that, we'd like to convert it to renewable and continue to have it be a valuable reliability asset for us. And a side benefit of all of that would be that we can also, that's the only asset we have that's subject to the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, so we'd be able to reduce a compliance cost, and that would be welcome as well. For anybody who's potentially attending the Renewable Energy Vermont Conference next week, it's on October 15th. We're going to have a participation in a panel that's focused on utility rates and affordability there. Obviously, rates, I think, is pretty generally well known around the country, going up much higher than inflation. And in New England, there's been double, triple-digit rate increases, driven in large part in New England by natural gas price volatility and natural gas infrastructure constraints. Elsewhere, AI data center demand is a potential driver. I think we've seen that in the PJM, states like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, that are part of PJM. I think data I've seen says 1 out of every 6 customers in America is having trouble paying their electric bill. There are states where 1 out of every 5 customers are behind on their bill. So there's a really significant thing happening with electricity prices, and I do think Vermont is reasonably well positioned. Our rates are the lowest in New England, and then within that, BED, particularly on the residential side, has some of the lowest rates. So it's never a welcome thing when rates are going up at all, but I think we have a much better affordability narrative at the moment than we've seen in some of the other states, and we'll dig into that on that panel. And I had a regulatory update, kind of general item here. A couple things that jump to mind. Our Moduli pilot, which we talked about, we have an October 15th deadline at the PUC, and after which, if there's no additional action, we'll be able to launch that pilot. We've had 111 customers who have expressed interest, which is pretty good for that kind of program. Our initial thought is that we'll do 3-month rotating basis for the 10 batteries, and we have an 18-month pilot period, so maybe we'll get to a little more than half of the customers who are interested. We're going to try to focus on having roughly half of the batteries go to renters at any given time, so we can test this with renters as well as homeowners. And it's a no compensation pilot. We're not paying, the customer's not paying. So it'll be purely for kind of demonstration and educational purposes for us. So we're looking forward to that. We also have progressed within the PUC on our commercial demand response program that's part of the Building Giants initiative that you all have approved previously. So we're looking forward to launching that in the not distant future. And that is with electric heating technologies, providing bill credits and demoing technologies that can help reduce demand from the commercial side. We also have a residential component there that's less far along, but that we're looking forward to advancing in the also not distant future. We're continuing to update the, I mentioned TEPF, we're continuing to update the TEPF kind of uses and budget as we go, keeping the PUC and the Department of Public Service informed of how we're progressing with those programs and where we're offering new programs, providing timely updates there. Our fiscal 26 rate case, we have mainly a discussion around how we might take what was in the 25 rate case, which we discussed, which was some one-time costs that were included there that would normally have not been included, and see if we can, through the 26 rate case, provide a way to compensate for that. So that's kind of the main conversation for the FY26 rate case. And there's a variety of other regulatory items that we have in process, but I won't go through each one of them. Just wanted to provide a few highlights there. And lastly, in terms of the timing on a couple of these items, the EV site license agreement that we're going to discuss tonight, as well as miscellaneous fees. We're hopeful to bring those to the Board of Finance on the 21st of October. If permissible, we'll look to do a concurrent meeting with the City Council as well. If not, we'll have to wait till the next council meeting. We're waiting on a determination there. And we need approval for both of those items, obviously, with both bodies before we can advance them. The site license agreement will advance with customers. The miscellaneous fees would go next to the commission following any consultation we need to do with the Department of Public Service. So it's just more on the time frame. And that's everything I've got. I know we have a lot on the agenda, but we appreciate your time with us this evening and all the different items that we're bringing forward.
Go ahead, you go first.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Thanks, Darren. So just to recap, so for the miscellaneous fees, it would be, if it passes tonight, then it would go to Board of Finance and Council maybe together, so it might be, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and if it's not together, then it would be Board of Finance on the 21st, Council in early November.
Okay.
So we'll wait to see what the determination is there.
Got it. My other question is there any information you can share about the audit, the DPW audit, DPS rather?
Yes. There's really nothing actually I can share at the moment. We had the PUC letter dated late July, I should say, and the Department of Public Service response, which was dated late August. The Department of Public Service had sought for the PUC to open a docket, and through that docket to require the proposed, and I'm not going to call it an audit because I think it can be confusing. We have a financial audit, obviously, on the agenda this evening, which is a different thing. To me, I'm going to think of it as a business process review, but they had requested that be ordered through that docket. As of today, we don't have that docket open yet, so we're still waiting to see how that process moves forward.
Got it.
I just wanted to go back a little bit earlier, unless anyone has questions on those last two pieces. But
No, I
okay.
do have a question, but on something else.
Do you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Just wanted to express gratitude for the EV incentives and making sure that we can kind of keep, not jolting the market or creating, keep showing a leading edge towards where we hope to go, and providing that softer landing from the September 30th incentive and the federal incentives ending. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I also wanted to just share gratitude for the logging report. It was really, really thorough. And then there was a lot of information, a lot of detail, a lot of review, lots of different ways that it was looked at. I appreciate that. I also wanted to give a kudos for the words noteworthy, though your work in that realm of being noteworthy, exemplary, and progressive.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yes.
There was also a list of recommendations for improvement.
That's right.
I didn't know what maybe the next steps were on those.
Yes. One of them was discussed at the TUC. It was sort of important in a way, according to John, was really just to make our policy more appealing visually for people to review and look at. So I've asked Betsy, who's our chief forester, to work with Adam Rabin on our web and graphic design and communications team to help make that happen. So we're trying to take some action there. Betsy spoke a little to some of the other thoughts and recommendations, but I also mentioned at the TUC meeting, and I'll mention here as well, Betsy is going to be leaving us, retiring at the end of the month, and takes 42 years of institutional knowledge and public service with her, and we really appreciate all of her work. Her position is posted currently, and so it's our intent that when we have a new chief forester to come in, that we'd ask them to review the recommendations in the report that haven't been acted on and prioritize those that make sense for us to try to advance. So that'll definitely be part of the conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner.
Yeah, I had two questions. One, it was really interesting to hear what you were presenting at the conference, and that brought up something I've been curious about, is how you are tracking both electricity demand and rates.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be really helpful to have an eye on it, not to create something new, because I assume you're doing that already, so whatever the regular cadence is, but to see maybe historically and then a forecasted demand for both of those areas of BED in context.
Yeah.
The state, New England, the country, whatever, just a way for us to kind of see
Mm-hmm.
how that's comparing. I think that would be really helpful information.
Absolutely. We tend to, during our rate presentations and budget presentations each year, provide some of that data updated. So we compare BED's rates to Vermont and to New England, and we break it down by sector. So we have residential, commercial, total, and then we also look at kind of bill impacts and affordability around the energy assistance program.
And is that like a point in time, or is that forecasted too, or?
It's typically backward-looking for the data that we have from New England and Vermont, and then we're forecasting what our rate would be with whichever the increase. In this case, FY26 was 4.5%. So we'd have a little line on the chart showing where we're forecasted to be compared to the most recent data that we have from Vermont and New England. I think the short story as of the last presentation is on residential, we continue to be some of the lowest relative to the region, and very low even relative to Vermont, which is the top state in the region in terms of having the lowest rates. On commercial, we're a little more mid-pack, a little more average when it comes to Vermont. We're still better than the region. And it was interesting just to look at the EIA, the Energy Information Administration, which is nonpartisan data provider for the federal government. They do a state electricity, essentially, update each month as part of their electric power monthly. And you can look at rates over time compared kind of in that month to the year prior. And Vermont used to be, second or third in the region. And more recently, we've been in the top spot, not only compared to New England, but what I was seeing was also relative to New York, New Jersey, some of the other states around us. And I would attribute that, a lot of it, to our regulatory model, to the fact that we maintain vertically integrated utilities as opposed to kind of creating a deregulated system, and to the fact that we've long supported having stably priced renewable contracts, long-term contracts for our utilities and or long-term owned assets, as opposed to being subject to the market. There are moments when being subject to the market looks really good when prices are low, and you might look at our model and say, hey, that's not the best model. But then when things go the other way and prices spike, our model looks really good. So I think we protect consumers in Vermont, ratepayers, over the long run with the things that we've done. I think the data is proving that out a bit at the moment. Just my personal view.
Okay, yeah, so expect to see that when you're presenting the rate case. And what about demand? I mean, part of this is of interest for us to keep our eye on the ball, and I know you are because you're doing forecasting, but everything I hear from friends in the energy space is all about crazy increases in demand and supply potential shortages. So
nationally, I think that's true. In New England and in Vermont, it's not really the case at the moment. We were trying to drive some demand growth through electrification for good purpose.
Right.
And we are seeing some economic activity. Obviously we have the new City Place portion of that project's open and operating as an example. We know the new high school will be operating next year. So we have some new big projects coming on that will create demand. And Emily's done some slides on this that we can update as well for the next budget presentation, where we really saw demand spike back in 2005, was sort of the peak of our system. And then it dipped during the financial crisis. There was some rebound, but it's been a long-term trend downward that really kind of reached its low point during the pandemic. We've been seeing an upswing, but it's a modest upswing, 1.5% a year roughly. And all things equal, is if we're growing demand because of economic activity or electrification, those are good things. If we're growing demand because we're being wasteful and not using energy efficiency, that would be a negative. We have a really strong efficiency program, and we've demonstrated that we're still using a lot less electricity today than we were in 1989 as a city, which is kind of amazing. But overall, we'd like to see demand grow. We don't have any AI data center locations in New England at the moment because New England is one of the higher price regions in the country. But I think what you're seeing in the Mid-Atlantic and some of the other lower price regions is a saturation, essentially, of the available power generation and impacts to consumers around that. So it's a fair point nationally, absolutely.
Were you also perhaps talking about the power supply contracts and how, maybe hard it is to get some of those, and that kind
that's
of
true.
competition?
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, we just, aside from demand being relatively moderate, we know there's competition for renewable contracts. We're pleased to have brought a couple of proposals already to the commission, and we continue to work on those. So that's a fair point to keep track of, absolutely.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments?
I would just echo your comments on the forestry report. That was, honestly, I expected no less than what I read. because I know how much those folks take it seriously, and kudos to Betsy and her team.
Yeah.
It speaks to their professionalism. One of the lines that he repeated in there, which made me particularly pleased with them, was the line about them being like the gold standard that should be looked at as being the most exemplary way of doing this business. So just what a great way to end a career with a report like that. So
Yes, couldn't agree more, and credit to the entire forestry team and Betsy for her leadership. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't a report, as the commission knows, it wasn't a report that we sought out. It was sought by, I think, folks during the district energy discussion, and it definitely speaks well to the work that we do in the forestry sector, and I couldn't be more pleased for that. And we didn't know John Bryant. We'd never met him. He is truly an independent consultant, and gave his viewpoint on everything, informed by his understanding of the facts and his going out in the field and talking with suppliers and seeing sites. So we value his work as well.
yeah, that hit home to me too. That like this is genuine, legit, unbiased.
Yep.
Here it is.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, thank you all. All right, I think we're moving on now to the financial review.
Okay, good evening. These are the budget versus actual results for August 2025. Kind of a simple story this month. We had an actual net income, we had an actual net loss of only $346,000 as compared to a budgeted net income of $2.28 million. And as you can see, the main reason for this is in rec revenues, and this is merely a timing difference where we budgeted to receive the revenues in August. We actually received the revenues in September. So in September, you will see a roughly $3 million positive variance on that line, and then our year-to-date budget versus actual will be a little more meaningful. So that's really the story with this month's results. Net power supply had a modest positive variance. McNeil fuel was over budget, but then we had wind and First Light production under budget, so purchase power was favorable, more than offsetting the fuel overage, and then we had a little bit of a favorable variance in transmission as well. Other operating and maintenance expense pretty much on budget, just about a $94,000 favorable variance. And then below the line in other income and deductions, we had a $206,000 favorable variance, and that also is timing related due to the timing of the receipt of customer contributions and gain and loss on asset retirements.
Can you speak to the nature, thank you, can you speak to the nature of the timing issue with the recs? Is it abnormal that they show up, were they late, or was it?
No, it happens from time to time. It's, we have until a certain date to deliver it, so I think September 15th was the last day, like, that we needed to deliver them. Sometimes we're early, and sometimes we're more like right on around the deadline. So this time we were right around the deadline. So it has happened before.
Okay, thanks for explaining that.
Yep. There's no further questions. I'll go to the next page cautiously. Okay, so capital spending year to date, just with 2 months of the year gone by, is just under $700,000. compared to the budget at this time of just under 3 million, we've spent about 5% of the total capital budget for the year to date. Let's see. Timing, as always. Winooski 1, FERC licensing is actually, that project is proceeding. We are doing, or we, our consultants, Gomez and Sullivan, are doing fish studies throughout the summer. So some of this is timing of invoicing. Just want to reassure the commission that the FERC relicensing project is happening and is on schedule. The embankment repair happened in August, but probably invoices haven't been paid yet. And then also within that budget, Winooski 1 is turbine overhauls that's happening now. Let's see, and then distribution is continuing to see, a big piece of that variance is back orders of transformers. And then as far as cash goes, we had just about $12 million in operating cash as of the end of August. We had budgeted to have 12.8 million, so $800,000 lower than budget. If the rec revenue, however, had come in on time, we would be 2.2 million, roughly 2.2 million better than cash budget.
Emily, could we mention the
Yeah.
arrearages here too?
Sure. So they're in the dashboard.
Yeah.
Wanted you to know that we are continuing to track customer arrearages. I don't remember the current 60-day number. I want to say it's around 600,000, which to me is concerning. Some commissioners may remember this, some may not. So prior to the pandemic, in February or 2020, our overdue customer bills were like $230,000 or something like that, and we are limited during the winter in our ability to disconnect for non-payment due to health and safety concerns about cold weather. And so kind of like late winter, early spring is the historical peak of past due balances because there's that winter forgiveness period, right? And so we saw customer arrearages during the pandemic skyrocket to over like
Over a
1.5 or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
It was
that
well over
close
$1
to
million.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
We were fortunate to receive via the city some grant funding through the ARPA bill, where we helped, well, there were a number of state programs in which we participated, but then despite all of that, right, there were still a high number of unpaid residential bills. We used ARPA funds to make all of the residential customers whole, essentially. And then we were left in April of 2022, basically with just the commercial folks. So the arrearages really dropped, almost back to pre-pandemic levels. What's happened since we did that major relief effort in April 2022 is that they've just steadily crept up and up and up. And so the amount over 60 days, which is kind of the benchmark that like the State Department of Public Service has been kind of keeping track of throughout the pandemic, has, if I just search this for 60, how long will it take me to get to it? Quite a while, I guess. Let me try something else. There we go. So that's now $616,490. And you can kind of see just going back, in January, that amount was $480. Average for 2023 was $392. See, you can see the average for 2021 was $1 million, right? So it's crept up. And I know Darren has asked customer care to come up with a plan or a strategy for.
And we have one.
Huh?
And we have.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That I haven't seen, so that's
Yes.
great. I don't know if there's more you wanted to say about
And
that.
I assume the number of accounts, I think I saw that somewhere in here.
Yeah,
but
there
the
is.
number of accounts that are in arrears has
Mhm.
increased, correct?
Yeah, I
Somewhere on
mainly
here.
was hoping the
Yes, it is
commission
here.
Yeah.
would just be aware that we're seeing this trend and that we're going to be working through customer care to seek to mitigate and reduce the arrearages. But just as we were thinking about cash on hand, obviously this impacts there as well, and I just wanted to raise it. Sorry to spring it unprompted.
That's all right.
Excellent job finding it on quick notice.
We probably don't have that soft landing anymore.
No,
A.
no
B,
more ARPA money available.
Right, so do you guys have you looking into, even anecdotally from people that you're dealing with that are that far in arrears? I'm guessing 500 and above, or whatever that benchmark was. Anecdotally, what may be driving this uptick?
I don't know if we have a understanding from customer care on that. Mike's going to join. Sorry for the
No, because
interruption.
that's kind of alarming, really, honestly.
It was worth mentioning, I
I
think.
mean, even in normal years, it hovers around $250,000.
Yeah,
you
and it's
know.
been elevated since the pandemic above that, but it's definitely getting higher than we're comfortable with.
Yeah, good evening, Mike Kenerick from Customer Care, Communications, Energy Services. Anecdotally, we've been hearing lots of different reasons from folks: economic challenges, job market challenges, family challenges. One of the biggest takeaways for us in terms of the increase is just the ability to take the steps needed to collect money. There's really two ways to do it when folks aren't paying their bill on time. One is the preferred method, which is a proactive outreach to folks before disconnecting their power. That's the last thing we want to do, and we work with our customers on payment plans and opportunities to avoid disconnection. However, bandwidth can be a challenge in terms of having the ability to reach out to all of those customers before a disconnection process starts. We follow really strict rules about the notification process for a customer. And when I say outreach, there's outreach we do before disconnections that are these warning letters. But what I'm talking about, which is part of our new plan and we want to try to take advantage of, is actually having customer care reps make some phone calls to some of the folks who have $500 or greater in arrearage and say, hey, we really want to work with you. We don't want to have to get to the point where your power may be cut off. We have payment plans available. Let's just communicate and see what we can do. And so we haven't been able to do as much of that. And the other piece is, even when we send notices out that say, if you aren't able to pay by this date and you haven't reached out to us, we can disconnect, we don't necessarily disconnect everyone who can be disconnected based on the rules we're following. Because if you could imagine the flow, if in our lean, mean, hardworking customer care team, we were to disconnect all those people, the next thing that happens is those folks reach out to us, which is what we want. We hope to never get to that point, but they reach out, and it's not just a quick phone call to get those folks back up and running. It's often multiple calls suggesting different agencies in the area that might be able to help them. And what that does is it impacts our ability to meet our service quality metrics on answering phones, 75% of our calls within 20 seconds. So it's a balancing act that literally involves looking at what staff is in that day, how many people are there, what other meetings might people be attending, for instance, to make sure that our IT forward technology program is going to fly right, because there's a whole customer care component. So it's a big balancing act, but we feel like we have a plan in place, and you haven't seen it because I just shared it with Darren moments ago, to try to do the more proactive outreach and to increase our ability. Again, we hope we don't have to get there, but to disconnect more people so that we can collect more revenue.
Does your software give you like a daily, it must give you some sort of a daily report, a flag of like, here's who like, here, today is the day to, or tomorrow, like some sort of a like, that you're able to forecast as you come in on a Monday morning, oh shoot, Friday's gonna be a really crazy day because this many people are, do you have that sort of ability to track?
Yeah,
Track those
we-
trends?
We do track that, and we really decide how crazy or busy that day will be based on what action we take pursuant to the permission we have to do disconnects, for instance. Stay tuned for updates.
For the action plan, okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask one other quick question?
As many as you'd like.
I'm curious about potentially you talked about working with local agencies, and I'm wondering about also any kind of disaggregation metering or other, EE connection that can be made for efficiency upgrades. I know that's not usually like, here's this big cost we're gonna tell you should do when you have zero money to pay your bill, but I'm curious about like a way to fund kind of any WAP prioritization or anything else that could help reduce those bills to hopefully set up for the long-term strategy of not having that customer experience that crisis.
Right. Well, big picture, we do our best to communicate to all of our customers about opportunities to use less electricity and be more efficient. The customers we're speaking with when they're in that crisis mode of not having the funds to pay, those customers, we do, if they're not on the energy assistance program, make sure they understand there's a 12% opportunity for a bill credit. But the other programs aren't ones they're necessarily that eager and keen to talk about right then. I found it can be a little overwhelming. They're just trying to pay the bill and get the power on.
Yeah.
But the better we can communicate along the way and reach more customers with the programming we have, hopefully they won't even get into that position.
Right. Or like a meter loan or something when they're out of the emotional crisis mode so that they have more power in their ability to control their bill.
Any other questions?
No, but it'd be great to hear about this at our upcoming commission meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
We'll track it.
Put it on for a meeting.
Yep.
Okay, I just had this one table then at the end of my usual report. So debt service coverage ratio for the most recent 12 months is 5.11. Adjusted debt service coverage ratio, not so hot with the $3 million revenue, not booked when expected at 1.05. That will rebound. And then cash coverage, 142 days on hand, including the $10 million line of credit. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Should we ask questions now that are later, or are you done?
I'm done for now, unless there's questions.
I have some questions on 43, slide 43.
3.
Net power supply costs.
Yeah.
So ISO exchange is significantly up year to date, and I see the note because our production is under budget. So can you talk about, almost all of these would be agreed upon long-term price contracts aside, or can you help me understand how it's variance in demand versus variance in price because it's a market purchase?
I think I get what you're asking with that. So we're 100% renewable or more than 100% renewable with our contracts and our owned assets on an annualized basis, but not on a hourly or necessarily daily or monthly basis. And so ISO is essentially the battery for us, as they are for anybody, where if we're producing more than what we need, we're essentially sending more of it into the ISO system. And if we're producing less than what we need, then we're drawing on the ISO system at any given time. So there may be months where if wind underproduced, for example, or as we've seen with our hydro is not been producing very much, you may see a bigger ISO exchange number. And then that will also depend on kind of how much we're under or overproducing and what the price environment was at that point in time. Typically in the winter when the prices are the highest, we have McNeil running essentially 24/7. unless there's any kind of a mechanical issue or something like that. And we tend to be long on power in the winter, which has been good for our customers, generally speaking. But particularly if you look at the shoulder seasons, where we might not have as much production, then you may see some of those variances sometimes.
Okay.
Is that a fair description?
Yep, and I'll add to that by saying, so if you look at the August results and the notes there, so you can see Georgia Mountain Wind favorable, 41,000, Hancock favorable. So all of those three wind resources produced less than we expected them to produce.
And those, and I think part of my question is, a lot of those are fixed cost agreements, so
Yep.
it's actually just a unit.
That's right.
Delta,
So we
or-
actually,
Right.
so we paid, yeah, that's right. So we paid less for the wind than we
Because of
thought
just
we
the
would
lower-
because
yeah.
there was lower production,
Right.
right? And in these notes, if there's a variance, if part of the variance is related to price, that will be noted.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Great. That's what I was
So,
trying to
yeah.
figure out how to parse it out.
Yeah,
what
the other thing, to Darren's point about ISO exchange, so for August, we budgeted to have expense for ISO exchange. So we budgeted to be selling to ISO less than we needed to use from ISO. In the winter months, you will see that budget number actually go negative, where we are expecting to sell more into ISO in that month than we need from ISO in that month. And again, so and the energy price delta between what we assumed about what we'd pay for energy in August or January, right, will impact here our cost potentially, but in January or February, it impacts the revenue part of this
Right.
net power supply. And that's why on the summary financial review, that the first page I show, it's called net power supply expense because some elements of this are actually revenues or can be revenues. If that
Great,
helps.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to understand cost versus production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
shifts
so the
and how
price
that
in
affects us.
in the current month and in, the year-to-date, energy price variation from budget has not been a big factor. The biggest factor, as noted in Note 4 under August and Note 5 under year-to-date, has been production variances, particularly with First Light and Winooski 1 because of the drought conditions, obviously, and then the wind resources. And then McNeil being online or offline as compared to budget will also drive variances in that ISO exchange as well. So for example, so to keep going on this, but if fuel is over budget, right, because McNeil ran more than budgeted, ISO exchange is usually less than budget
Right.
because we had more energy to sell to ISO than we thought we would.
Right.
So, yeah.
Thank you, that was really helpful.
Yeah. Any other questions?
All right.
Do we ask
Oh, yeah.
about strategic direction dashboard in this section?
You could.
Or would that be later in the commissioners?
We don't have a specific
Spot
item for it, so you
Yeah.
could ask about it here.
I just wanted to note again, I said this last time, but I think it's extremely helpful. It's one of the most helpful tools beyond the financials where we can see kind of what you're targeting versus where we're at. And so I think I asked this last time, but I'm still confused by the net zero roadmap on here, because it says on page 53, it says see net zero roadmap below, but then it only shows 2023 targets. And so how do we,
Yeah.
it was sort of coming up for me as we were talking about the new EV incentive, and I'm like, oh, my head is thinking, how are we in comparison to what we're setting out to do in terms of our EV goal? And I can't tell.
So that's my bad. And when I updated this in April, so roughly in the April timeframe, we get actual results from the calendar year before, from Synapse Energy Consulting that does our analysis on
Okay.
greenhouse gas emissions and fossil fuels and vehicle registrations for the entire city of Burlington. And so we don't have month to month,
I
how
think
did we
month to month
do?
is fine, more like
No.
a year-to-date, like what's the year annual target and like what are we trying?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
where I'm
sorry.
going. I'm saying
Sorry,
we
I
don't
interrupted.
have month-to-month comparisons on, did we get the EV target compared to the roadmap target for EVs, for example. What we have is the annual target. So what I failed to do, and actually I did this, but only after I emailed Elena the packet for the dashboard for the month, is I need to update the 2020, that target, to show you what the 2024 target is from the roadmap trajectory.
Perfect, yeah.
Okay? And then you could see, like, we're supposed to be at 2320, it's 18% of the goal, and then like 2320 should be 18% of the real 2024 target number in column B.
And,
That
note of
makes sense.
caution when you're comparing to the net zero roadmap, the 2030 goals are extremely ambitious. Extremely ambitious. So we have there's different ways you could cut it. Like, we have our state tier 3 goals, which we regulate, and then the net zero roadmap had both a 2030 and a 2040 timeframe. 2040 being a little less ambitious, still ambitious relative to pretty much anywhere in the country. Most of have 2050 goals. But so, while our overall emissions reduction has been, pretty good on the roadmap trajectory, some of the individual measure targets, in particular, like EVs or heat pumps, they're going to just grow exponentially to 2030, whereas we're seeing kind of the real world results, with all the headwinds that we were just talking about with, federal policy, for example. So I struggle with, and we should probably discuss in the future, how to frame the net zero roadmap metrics relative to sort of our programmatic metrics. So something for.
That totally makes sense, and I
Yeah.
get most net zero type goals are pretty lofty.
Yeah.
I just think it's really helpful, and some of the times I'm also craving, it's like you have target and like where we are year to date near that instead of just the month.
Right.
But I think it's like some metrics we're gonna track that are probably not gonna be that telling, but they're helpful to track. But
Yep.
I think your notes are so helpful on all of these financial ones that say like, this is because of this, or this is tracking up. So I think any context on here too, so that, you're not trying to look at all these detailed numbers. It's like, hey, it's a highlight. EVs are actually faster than we were thinking, but these are way down, or, just some
Mhm.
context on that I think helps us know, are we headed in the direction we're trying to go?
Fair point.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, the next topic is the FY25 audit report.
Right. I know we have a full agenda, so I'm going to keep my part quick, but I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge my accounting team, Yin Lu, Ann Reading, Erin Cushing, Melissa Legg, Patrick Campbell, and Lori LeBlanc Bergeron. Their hard work, not only when we're preparing for the audit and answering questions, but really day in, day out through the fiscal year is what really contributes to our success, and they're very hardworking and committed to following our processes, following our controls, and I very much appreciate them. So I wanted to take a minute to say thank you, and also thank KPMG for all of their hard work over the past couple of months getting us to tonight. So I'll pass it over to Renee and Jake, who are online, and I can pull up the slides and go through them for us.
Thank you, Amanda, and hello, everyone. Renee Bourget, please. I may have met you all last year, but I can't now remember if there are new commissioners that I haven't. And to be honest, I can't quite see everyone's face all that well. You seem far away from me, but we're going to walk through the results of the audit, and I think maybe even just the summary slide, Amanda, will sort of help frame the conversation. We are very close to being complete at this point in time. Maybe one more back. There we go. So we're very close to being complete at this time. There are a list of open items at the bottom here. I would say that these are sort of the typical open items that we have at this time. We're waiting for some legal response letters just to make sure there's no significant litigation or commitments or contingencies that we should be noting in the financial statements. Obviously, at the conclusion, we'll get the management representation letter. The two things from the city are really around the OPEB actuarial study, which has not come in yet. That needs to go into the department's financial statements. And we do have some open questions on the pension actuarial study, primarily surrounding the use of mortality tables and why updated tables weren't included in this valuation. And then, just sort of the nitty gritty of just tying everything out, which at the time that we did this had not been completed and now is completed. So I think we are in very good shape. We do obviously plan to issue an unmodified opinion, but we've got to complete all these procedures first. On the right-hand side, we've got a couple of what we call uncorrected misstatements. These are things that we believe and management believes are immaterial to the financial statements, so they've not been corrected in the financial statements, and I would characterize them both as sort of out-of-period adjustments, not so much sort of errors in calculations. And so I guess if we just maybe move on to the required communications. These are all the things that at the conclusion of an audit, we need to discuss with governance. As you can see, most of these items have a check mark, and that really just means, or I should say an X, that means that we really don't have any items to report. So for example, if we had issues with management or issues with significant estimates, disagreements with management, we would be discussing those with you. But we really had no issues in the conduct of the audit. I think Amanda and her team do an excellent job preparing for it, being responsive to our questions, and that's certainly greatly appreciated. Maybe we could just go to the next slide. These are, again, some additional communications, but really nothing to report here. I'm going to go one more. So these are the two, what we call uncorrected misstatements. I should have mentioned on the opinion, just a reminder that we're actually issuing opinions on both Burlington Electric and its proprietary fund, so the department itself, and then separately an opinion on EEU, which is a fiduciary fund. And so you'll see this 36,000, which, normally in the scheme of things, you would say that's definitely immaterial. Why are you even telling us about it? But it's because the EEU fund is relatively small in nature. So it's sort of above what we are required to communicate to you. Again, not material at all to the financial statements, but big enough that we would need to tell the commissioners about. And all this really is that, the department estimated what the receivable would be as of June 30th. The receivable actually came in higher than anticipated. Or maybe it's the other way around, Amanda.
Other way around, yeah.
It's actually the other way around. You estimated a receivable too high and it came in lower than anticipated by 36,000. And then on Burlington Electric, this is sort of what I would characterize as out of period. So this actually dates back to the McNeil overhaul in 2019. And typically the department would put up a regulatory asset for the overhaul expenses. And they would then collect that through rates over an amortization period. And my understanding is that the request for the asset was denied. And so they did, in fact, include in rates 1/7 or the amortization over 7 years, the amount of that overhaul. So from like 2020 through 2025. So they'd been collecting on that, but had expensed this entire amount in 2025, when really you should have done that throughout the 5 years prior. So all we're saying here is you put something on the books in 25, and a part of it, most of it, I think the total amount was 850,000 or so. A part of it should have been in prior periods. Again, not material to the financial statements taken as a whole, but something we're required to tell you about. Any questions on those?
Did you have a question?
Well, if we should have collected, just reiterate the very last thing she just said. If that should have been something that could have been taken in prior periods, why hadn't we had this conversation with you folks or before? Like, like her kind of begs that we've already should have been talking about this.
Because I think each year was $160,000. It didn't even rise to our auditing, to be honest.
Okay.
And it wasn't until they put this reg liability on the books in 2025 that we were trying to understand, well, what is this? And, how can you put this reg liability on the books and what does it relate to? And then, trying to understand when should it have been recorded.
And the smaller one.
We're not gonna get, we wouldn't necessarily catch something for 160,000 in each year, right?
Okay.
It's just not the level of materiality that we're auditing at.
I get you. And then the smaller one would be, am I guessing that even as these things go along, there's kind of a cutoff point where some very last little things might be considered a misstatement, but it's just that, as we often have, the timing of the
Yes.
report versus the timing of actual statements coming in. There's always some little bit of a
Correct,
wiggle there because
this
of just.
amount is actually seen in the July
Yep.
records, but it's in the different fiscal year, so that's why it's called out.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you. I'm good.
Right. What else? Next slide, I guess. So really, we would be required to tell you about any sort of significant changes in accounting policies or practices. There was one new accounting standard adopted by the department this year called compensated absences. And it really required the department to look at sick leave. So they'd always been accounting for and accruing vacation time, but this new standard brought in other kinds of compensated leave, including sick time. So it required them to sort of look at the policy around sick time and then make some judgments about the likelihood that they would be paying out that sick leave, because it does accrue, but it doesn't get paid, except for my understanding, a small group of employees. It doesn't get paid when you leave the department. It would really be only upon use. So when somebody actually takes the sick leave. So as you can see, the amount is very small, 52,000. But it required a fair amount of analysis by Amanda to sort of look back historically to say, what do people accrue and what's the likelihood that they will actually use the sick leave? So that was really the only accounting standard change, and we're not aware of any significant changes in accounting policies.
This is, I guess, for this conversation, really focused on liability exposure, but is
If on the next slide, we've just got some of the significant accounting.
Renee, hang on. Oh, it's okay.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Sorry, just a quick question. This is just, that brought up for me, just a simple question, for like our risk for, it's all policy choices and benefit choices, but, do you keep a cumulative accrual, or do you have a finite rollover amount for sick leave and all leaves?
Both.
yes.
For sick leave specifically, it accumulates up to 360 hours, and then if you have excess of that at the end of the fiscal year, you kind of like lose it.
Sure.
And then the rest under 360 kind of keeps rolling to be
Okay.
used.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you're interested, we can go over more of the details around that. It's a little complex with all the different rules we have in the sick leave and what can and can't be paid upon retirement or resignation, so.
And it doesn't flag anything for financial risk for if you had to pay out all
And so that's
employees.
what this standard
Right,
is.
right.
We record a liability each year for anything that we would be required to pay if every employee left
Right,
tomorrow.
right.
So that's what the standard is.
Okay, so that
Yep.
feels like this is good. You got a good scrutiny of review that you feel comfortable with
Yep.
the exposure. Okay, great, thanks, that's helpful.
I would say that just in general, all of my clients that had to adopt this year, if you looked at just the gross amount of accumulation, it was a really big number because people are allowed to accumulate a lot. But the reality is the likelihood that they will actually either pay it through retirement or leave, or they will use it is actually much less. Because of course there's other programs like short-term disability and other things that you would access if you really were sick for a long period of time. So.
And this one in particular is not
All right, if we move on to just the significant accounting estimates, our two largest estimates are the fair value of investments, which are all marketable securities. We do look at those, we confirm them all with custodians, and then we independently price all of those with our third-party pricing desk. And then, of course, the net pension liability, which we're using actuaries from KPMG to evaluate the assumptions and methods used by the city's actuaries to help develop that pension liability. So the city obviously develops the entire pension liability, and then there's an allocation to each department based on the contributions essentially that are required to be paid into the city. So this is the one area where we do have some open questions that we have not gotten to a conclusion yet, but hopefully we'll get those answers soon and can make our final conclusions on this.
the projected timeline for final conclusions or the remainder of the process?
We don't really have one.
Okay.
We've followed up multiple times with the actuaries, just as recently as either yesterday or Monday. So hopefully in the next week or so. But
My sense is the question really is around there's, new mortality tables get issued, and there was a new one issued in the spring. And the question is like, well, why didn't you use the updated ones? And if you did use it, what would be the impact on the liability? My guess is even if they used it, it wouldn't be so material as to impact BED's portion of the total pension liability. But again, until we sort of get that response from the city and its actuaries, we can't make our final conclusions.
Your questions?
And similarly on the OPEB, the other pension benefits, post-retirement benefits, that is actually a fairly small number for BED. It's about $1 million in total. And it's just one of those things I think that lags each year.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So I think that's really it for our discussion. The disclosures and financial statements themselves are very consistent with the prior year, and we really had no changes in any of the disclosures or accounting statements. So not much to discuss on this slide.
I'm not sure if I heard you in the beginning say that you issued what's usually the usual standard of an unqualified. Did you say that already, or did I miss that?
I said that we anticipate.
Anticipate based on what we were just talking about.
But yeah, as soon as we get all of the answers to our questions, and they get, BED gets the OPEB numbers from the city,
Yeah.
we'll push those changes and be ready to issue. But we can't quite do that yet.
But you anticipate that would be your
Yes,
unqualified
yeah.
judge. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so any other last questions?
I just want to pause quickly on this slide, and that is just to make sure that if the commissioners are aware of any fraud, regulatory actions, significant transactions, or any of these kinds of things this is sort of your opportunity to tell us about it, and you certainly could do that in executive session, but these are all the same questions we have of management.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is new, but I like it.
Yeah, their format is new this year.
Yeah.
Any comments on this question or any responses? Nope. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I sent out a separate invite to Jake and Renee for the executive session,
Great.
and I can just set it up and leave my laptop, and we'll all head out, if that works. Is that allowed?
Or we can stay on this link, but we can turn off town meeting TV and we can all leave.
Well, we also got to make sure that no one from the public can log in.
Okay, so
Yeah,
maybe we
so
should
we did
use.
this
I
separate.
don't think anyone will log in because I have to shut down.
Well, but if
Travis-
they had the link, they still
Travis
could.
is recommending.
I would leave, Elena, I'd leave your laptop in with the meeting.
Okay.
Yourself, that kind of stuff. I'll stay in
Okay.
too. I'll mute myself. You have.
I'll
the
put on my
network.
separate.
Okay.
Okay.
Whatever
already
the easiest,
muted.
whatever the easiest way is so that nobody can listen in would be great.
Okay, shall we, is there a motion to go into executive session?
I'll move to find that premature general public knowledge regarding the fiscal year 2025 KPMG audit would clearly place the Burlington Electric Department at a substantial disadvantage per Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes. I move that the commission enter into executive session to discuss the audit under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1A of the Vermont statutes.
And it is 6:27.
Second that motion. Motion.
All right. So we're gonna
Discussion.
log off this link if you guys
Do
wanna
we have
join
to
the
vote on that?
other one that
Still
I
on the
sent.
other one?
Yep.
Any
Thank you.
discussion
Okay.
on the motion?
Sounds good.
No.
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so next we have up the Triennial Customer Satisfaction Survey.
We're just gonna get hooked up here.
Oh, I need to be online too to do that.
Oh, but you know
Try
what?
what?
You can, yeah.
BED
here.
guest, is that good?
Yep. Do that.
Password?
Here you go. And let me find. Let me invite you to this meeting. Bear with me one
Probably,
sec.
yeah.
I didn't text Paul, by the way.
I told Paul he's back.
Thank you, appreciate that. Let's forward this meeting. Forwarding
And I
this.
texted Manina.
Oh, you did? Thank you.
Tell me if you get an email from me right coming your
Got an
way.
email about lunch and learn.
Just sent it. Should be the link to this Teams meeting.
Yep.
Yeah?
Nope, not yet.
Okay.
Momentarily.
Sent it from Moss Glen.
Yep.
It's coming.
There it is. Yep.
Cool. Is the Teams link in there?
Yep.
Nice.
Okay, there we go. So you use the browser.
Oh, yeah, we might set a record.
Yeah.
I'll need permission
Something to put on your
probably,
resume.
too.
Okay.
Good.
Let's see.
We don't want to update that?
What's that?
I mean,
Oh, no, I think we're just getting hooked up. I'll let you know.
Okay, someone's gotta let me in.
Let's see. Can you let him into the meeting, Elena? Do you have that,
see
do
him.
you see it popping up? I'm not on Teams, so
I don't see it yet.
let's see.
Is he on the invite list?
I just
You
forwarded,
just forwarded it.
the invite.
Yeah, let's
but
just chop it at the
I have
over
two
here.
invites. Maybe I forwarded.
You probably forwarded the wrong one.
Maybe
Let
I
me just-
forwarded. Was there an old one and a new one? All right, take two.
I'm in the executive session by myself.
Oh, you're in an executive session.
No, I don't.
No.
Oh, that would be funny. All right, I'm gonna do a take two. Send you the other invite.
Michael, what's your email?
Mossglen, MOSSGLEN @Yahoo.
Good memory, Mike.
Yeah.
We communicate a
We
lot.
spent a lot of time.
2 N's,
One N.
1 N at what?
Yahoo.
Ooh, that's another one.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I got this new one.
Try that one.
Is this here?
Enjoy a chocolate.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea.
Can I ask a small question while we wait? Demographics overview, is that of the people surveyed? That whole page?
Just disregard that.
Oh, that's not good.
Mike's on.
Thank you.
Sure. All right.
And oh yeah. I am muted.
Oh, are you muted on? Hit that microphone there. Yeah,
Okay.
and that, yep. That should do it.
Select window or screen, I guess.
Sharing your page.
And then, that's not what I want.
You hit that share button by the red button.
Yeah. That's not what I want to
Do you have your document open?
do. It's only allowing me to do that. Let's see, I wonder why it won't let me share the PowerPoint.
You should just be able to open the PowerPoint and then hit share screen. Can you do that?
Yeah, it's not finding it. Maybe because I'm on the browser and not in Teams. Not sure yet.
Right there, next to the red leave button.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just not giving me the calendar, Teams.
One more, 2025 reports.
Maybe if I do that. And then do this. Yeah,
Ah,
that'll
there we
work.
go.
Okay.
All right,
Success.
thanks.
Okay. Great. Where were we?
Can we hear Michael? Everything good?
Do you want to say anything? I can jump right into it.
Sure, jump right in.
Okay. So my name's Michael Moser. I'm here on behalf of Spruce Layton Consulting to talk to you about your customer satisfaction surveys, both residential and commercial customer satisfaction surveys that are part of your requirements for your certificate of public good. Is that?
This is as part of our service quality reports. Every 3 years, we do a customer satisfaction survey, and we're checking out overall satisfaction with Burlington Electric in a number of categories. Some of those are required by the PUC. Others are questions we ask and try to compare to our baseline and see how we're doing. Over the years, we've added some questions you could imagine, particularly around electrification, and it helps us learn a lot as we go.
Thanks.
Sure.
Yep. So I'll just jump right in now. I am a third-party, unbiased researcher helping with this satisfaction study and guaranteeing respondent confidentiality, so BED customers don't, their responses or their, whatever they have to say about the organization is kept, confidential for their sake. We utilize the BED residential and commercial customer databases. We took a random sample of the over 16,000 residential customers, and we utilized the entire list of just around 2,000 commercial customers. We utilize email first and then telephone-based data collection. This occurred in May and June this year. There were 883 residential and 73 commercial responses collected over the time. Oh, if anyone has questions or comments, I guess you can shout out to me unless you have a different way of doing things, but you can just let me know.
This one, I was just wondering, this is of respondents, this chart.
This is just residential respondents,
Okay.
correct? Yep. So just sort of trying to get an idea of who we're capturing, if we're holding sort of stable over time. Some of these questions have been asked for a while, others have been asked over a shorter period of time, particularly the regularly speak a language other than English in your home. But everything's relatively stable as far as the residential demographics go.
Can I ask a quick question on
Yep.
that? The sample size, the KWH usage category, are those those percentages of respondents representative of kind of the typical usage patterns for residential customers? I assume it's close enough, but.
I mean, we think, from what I recall, we think like the average residential customer uses 416 kWh. So they would be right in the medium category there.
Okay.
And certainly the fact that we have so many renters, I think, skews that lower than
Sure.
a lot of other service territories, although I was struck by the numbers of homeowners versus renters being
Right.
higher for home ownership in this survey. I think we've typically seen that renters have been more in the majority, so I don't know personally if that's a reflection of a different trend in the city or just that happens to be the sample this time. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the trend in the city is, but there's variability across the years of sampling, absolutely.
And I was also just checking in my mind that if, for the 11.1 for the high usage, if that high usage was actually more like, it's actually like 50% use more than 750 kWh, so we'd want a bigger sample, but
Yep.
that doesn't sound like the trend, so, or the average. Okay, thanks.
So one of the primary questions we're asking is how satisfied overall are you with Burlington Electric Department? And here we have sort of a longitudinal analysis for both residential and commercial respondents. And we see that there is marginal variability over time in those rates of overall satisfaction, with a bit of a decline in the most recent year, but particularly for the residential, that's really marginal, and with the commercial, it's a little bit greater, but still less than a point of difference over time. And some of that is going to be chalked up to, again, who you speak to on the phone, who's willing to talk to you on the phone, and those types of things. Then we ask this bank of questions. We've asked these for many years now. How important is it to you or your company that BED? And then we have this series of characteristics of the organization: provide reliable electric service. Makes sense that that's pretty important to folks relative to maybe being a nonprofit organization, for example. But we can, I don't know if you have, do they have the written report versions, or no?
I don't think that was in the packet.
There is longitude, you could look at these data longitudinally over time if you wanted to, but they do hold pretty stable over time.
My recollection
That was
is.
actually my question, is because I love how you have the year or triennial over triennial, however you say that, but that one, I was curious if it's changed over time, but it's consistent?
Relatively consistent.
Huh.
Every survey we've done since I've been here, reliability has always been number one.
Huh.
Yeah.
Which I would always assume that it might have been rates, but it's reliability every time.
And again, this is a synopsis of all the sort of things that we ask. It's not meant to be a thorough presentation of everything. Then another question that's asked is, how satisfied are you with how BED handled a question or inquiry? We've got some of those data over time as well for both residential and commercial customers. And we see that there's some movement in the most recent year of, how BED handled a question or inquiry. There are many reasons for why that might be the case. My understanding is that there was recently a change made to the billing processes here at BED, and that may have contributed to customer frustrations and some.
When we stopped having the credit card fee be part of the rate and had customers pay the fee, did lead to a spike in calls and complaints of a sort for that change. So I think you're probably right that that's one contributing cause.
Did note that that 79 is the lowest, for a commercial, so just, is there anything else, or would you get any other feedback of why it might be the lowest?
There is feedback. There's, we also asked the question, why aren't you satisfied? And then it's an open response, and we have those data available, Not in this presentation.
That's okay, yeah, hopefully it's actionable and
Yeah,
helpful.
I reviewed it. I think we need to review it a little more, but there was some, if I recall correctly, there was some variation in the responses. There were a handful of folks that maybe suggested they don't really align with or support the broader net zero mission. There were some folks who were concerned about the fee. I do think the fact that we've raised rates, even though I know we've kept the increases more moderate, has an impact, because if you go between 2012, 2021, we didn't raise rates at all. So I'm not surprised that we're starting to see some concerns raised around, cost or affordability, just generally. I don't recall if there were any others that stood out.
Not offhand. You're thumbing through the pages. I'll also state that, so BED doesn't exist. BED customers aren't just BED customers. They exist in the greater world, and there are increasing premiums on healthcare, increasing costs at the grocery store. All of these things sort of like pile on, and BED is part of that pile if there's a rate change, et cetera. This is the percentage of folks who said they were satisfied with BED energy efficiency programs over time. And again, some variability, some ups and downs over the years. 2025, seeing minor declines in satisfaction with the energy efficiency programs. And again, we have information about why as well. Is there a reason you have not participated in BED's energy efficiency programs, such as weatherization, lighting rebates, or efficient appliances? This is for residential respondents. And you see sort of some of the reasons that, what folks are saying and how those vary over time. I still like the unaware response category, which dropped quite significantly over the most recent years. It came back a little bit in 2025, but that's still relatively marginal. Cost being something with very little change over time. But yeah, that unaware, I think, is where we're seeing a lot of change in over time awareness.
I'm actually really surprised by this. I was, I think we've done, there's a lot of messaging out there, and to have it be 29%. I mean, I know, it's typical, right? Like, and it's the improvements there are just, I guess I know people are busy. I know that they're not always thinking about energy, or understanding how it can resonate with them for a rebate, but the unawareness is interesting.
Remember that 12% of the respondents have had service with us less than a year.
Thank you.
That contributes to,
Yeah.
like, we constantly have to make new customers aware.
That's
We've got moved
helpful.
And that 12% does it hold pretty stable over time, or?
5,500 to 6,000 customers a year.
Turnover.
Counts
Well, that was
change.
your respondents, right? So in 2014, a third of them were less than a year.
Interesting.
So this is
Yeah.
actually less than it's ever been in the look back you put on the first slide. But it does contribute to the awareness challenge.
That's really helpful. And I just really quick, one more thing on this is the not applicable or doesn't fit needs. Is there any follow-up question to the why? Or any data we can get from that to understand how to better
A lot of them are
cater?
renters.
Renters,
So
okay.
that's a
Yeah.
big proportion of the respondents, or,
Yeah.
and there is a follow-up question about that, isn't there? I think so.
Yeah, there is.
There's,
Let me find that one.
Yep. But yeah, most folks are, it's because I'm a renter, I can't do anything about it, so. Then these are a series of questions about sort of, relating to some of the BED programs that are out there. Understanding, where customers are and where you can meet them. So do you or your company own an EV or PHEV? I found this kind of interesting. I mean, that's a doubling of folks who own EVs or PHEVs. I don't know if you're seeing that in other data sets, but I thought that was pretty remarkable shift for 3 years.
We've, this sample group might have a little bit higher adoption rate than the city as a whole from the data that I've seen, but I was also, happy to see that
Yeah.
growth. That's pretty remarkable.
Absolutely. And here's an example of one of the follow-up questions right here. Why have you not used the rebate? And this is specifically about a rebate to purchase an EV or PHEV. 43% of respondents said they're waiting until their current vehicle needs to be replaced. That seems fair. A third of respondents say they're too expensive even with available rebates. I already, 19% say they already have one. 14% say it does not fit their needs, et cetera. We included a bunch of different categories this round, but the electrical panel upgrade that's needed is a new category that we asked about. And 7% saying they're completely uninterested in buying or leasing an EV. Burlington has a lot of folks that are strident non-car owners, and they're, in that category often, so. And you'll see that in some of the qualitative data, the comments that are made about, why should I own any car? It's kind of neat.
Quick question.
Yes.
I need an electrical panel upgrade, is that the 13.5 or the 3.6%?
That is the 13.5, yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep. Do you or your company have a cold climate heat pump? So this is residential 2022 and 2025 on the left, commercial 2022 and 2025 on the right. More folks responding that they do have a cold climate heat pump. The folks that are unsure is sort of are declining. And why have you not used the rebate to purchase a cold climate heat pump? This is just the residential side. A third of respondents are not responsible for their heating equipment purchases. A fifth of respondents are waiting until their current heating system must be replaced. 18% said they're too expensive even with available rebates. 17% suggested they're considering purchasing one now because they want to use it to cool their home. And I know there's some interest in how folks use these cold climate heat pumps for heating and cooling and which times of the year they're using them for those different things. Would you still consider getting a heat pump if the operating costs would be the same or slightly more expensive, but it would benefit the environment? So I think that's testing messaging there, or just, consumer interest in that component. Interestingly, that declined. The percentage of folks that said they would still consider it declined pretty significantly between 2022 and 2025. Maybe it's that expensive word, and again, sort of all of the other things that are increasing expenses, and maybe, causing people to rethink that. Which of the following ways do you use your cold climate heat pump? Everything, well, on the residential side, holding pretty steady. On the commercial side, we see that, there's a decline. I can't really tell you why. There's a decline in folks using it for both heating and cooling, but we do see an increase in commercial customers saying that they use it for cooling only. So. And this is during which months do you or your company use the cold climate heat pump for heating specifically? And I guess this gets at shoulder season. Do you have anything you want to say about the heating months or cooling months?
I think the biggest thing that was interesting to me about this in the last slide is we've seen a study from the Department of Public Service that suggested statewide, using advanced metering data, that there is a really significant delta between the customers who use it for cooling and the customers using it for heating, to the point where we've had consideration, I think, at the state level of whether or not the rebates should maintain or be changed or that kind of thing. So I think this data is good in a way, because it's showing that, I think it was over 88% of our customers in the residential side are using them for heating. I noticed that there's, the blue bar plus the orange bar there gets you over 88 or maybe even over 89. So that's much stronger than what the state data has demonstrated. And then if you look at the months, I mean, it's interesting. November looks like the kind of high point, so shoulder season for certain. We definitely see a dip into the 70s, the high 70s. We know that certain heat pump systems are better during the shoulder season, and then some of them are working really well. The ductless mini splits, some of the centrally ducted work really well in the winter. Some centrally ducted are set to switch over at 30 to 35 degrees. So we see a dip there that may be attributable to that. But overall, I thought this data was actually quite helpful for the statewide conversation. And I'm using it in that context already. So thank
Great.
you.
And then we ask a series of questions about, related to communication and outreach, things like that. So from which of the following sources do you get your community news and events? Very thrilling data here. But we do see that over time there's decline in things like print newspaper and television, and there's an increase in things like Front Porch Forum, that's it. But I think that's very useful for, your efforts in reaching out and making sure that you're communicating with your customers in different ways. I'm sure you use this that way. Who do you trust most for energy information? We see, interestingly, a steady decline in the state of Vermont, level of trust of the state of Vermont. Efficiency Vermont is showing some increase. Burlington Electric's, I'd say, holding steady in general. Neighbors and Friends holding very steady. I'm not sure what that's about, but, and then, so anyway, this is, helpful for your outreach and communications teams.
Do you ask directly Vermont Gas Systems? Because most people in Burlington have VGS, or at least residential side.
We do not ask.
They would probably be unfairly represented in the Your Heating Company, but not by name, so it probably is not an indication of how much people rely on their information.
Yeah, it seems like it wouldn't be reflective in that, since it's so low and so many people have it, so.
Yep, I agree.
Cool.
We could probably, the 2028 survey.
Yeah.
We should put that in.
Take notes. And that's it. And again, this is just sort of a synopsis, a broad brush of some of the primary results that we thought would be of interest to you all. And there is a more thorough report with additional data that's available. And
I have a question on that. Is part of your role to kind of help synthesize what you see as the most important headlines, or like
No.
passing on what you think to take action on, or are you just doing the survey and making charts?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I have no subject matter expertise with energy. Yep.
And I guess that maybe gets to my next question, is how do we best use this? Like, do you, Mike, then come up with some kind of, these are the key headlines, this is what it's telling us, and start to work on what you might do about what you're learning? Or how do we, other than it's a regulatory thing and there's some really interesting information, I think that would be helpful for the commission too, to just see what are these big couple things that like you learn from that. Is that part of the process, or how do we do that?
Yeah, for sure, and it's not just myself, but a group of us get together, review the survey. We've just wrapped it up recently, so we haven't done that yet, and decide how we can take action based on what we're learning. There's the regulatory piece, we'll report in on that, and, you know, make sure that we met the metrics, but, you know, one even small example is how do we spend our money advertising our programs. There had been a time when the North Avenue News was a more valuable resource. It looks like 7 Days is more valuable. We use Front Porch Forum quite a bit. This can help us understand how to better promote electric vehicles, cold climate heat pumps, efficiency programs. So we'll look through this and come up with what are our key takeaways, how do we better communicate to our customers, where are they getting their information, how can we best connect with them.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Like, well, I guess it's every 3 years, but I think in terms of like coming to the commission, it'd be like, that would be the most interesting to see. It's like data, sure, yes, and like, what's it telling us?
And what are we gonna do about it?
Yeah, and what are we gonna do about it?
Right, fair enough.
That's really interesting, yeah.
I just added it to the reoccurring check-in topics.
Well,
Well, I
yeah,
was gonna-
right, it's like, what could be the follow-up
Right,
that we could put on a calendar?
Yeah.
or even just for next month.
Yep.
I was gonna say that because in light of the big agenda that we have and stuff we have left, I'm wondering if we might table further discussion until next month when we've had some time to think about it and you guys have had some time to come up with some action steps, because it would be nice to dig in a little further on some of these things I think warrant conversation, like the commercial stuff. So could we do that for the next agenda or the agenda after if possible?
I love that. I'd rather hear what's important to you guys than just being like, oh, that's cool, or that's interesting.
We'll make a note, put a item on for whichever of the next two agendas is the latest.
Okay.
I did just want to note, I think that's great, and I also made the same note. I just want to note congratulations on the high trust. I think that's fantastic to see as a metric coming in. And I also just wanted to, say that I wonder too about a future survey, if there's something we should dig into on the arrearages, and if there's a way of surveying folks and understanding more of that, if it's a growing trend and a growing populace, that we dig in there. I don't know if that's part of this survey effort and this
Right.
regulatory requirement, but I think surveying or trying to understand deeper, and we've already talked about that a little bit, but I just.
And we do have other means of kind of getting outreach information.
Yeah.
Because this type of survey is a more expensive endeavor to get a
Yep.
statistically valid sample and something that we budget for every 3 years. But I do think we've done less formal outreach on different topics in the past, so there's definitely opportunities to do that. Over email, through Front Porch Forum, social media, other means we've gathered kind of informal feedback or done survey polls and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Everyone good to move on?
Yeah, love
Okay.
that idea.
Great.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Great. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
should-
next, we're moving on to the EV charging license agreement.
Yes. I think you're right.
Is that?
Here, come with me.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
This one's me and Munir.
He's still sharing his screen, I think.
Yeah, 'cause it says Bruce Lane Consultants.
Shut it off.
Can you
Yeah, we can just knock him.
Boot him.
While he, with his laptop closed.
just kick him out?
Yeah.
There,
Poor guy.
there he is, he's gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right, Munir's online. Yes, he's not feeling well though. So Munir, I can take the lead. Jump in if you want. So in your packet tonight is what we're hoping will be approved by the commission and then the Board of Finance and City Council later. It's meant to be a generic site license agreement for the use of private property for public charging stations. This agreement is modeled on an agreement we have in place with the University of Vermont. We are contemplating doing additional installations on private property. We're trying to use public city property where possible, but there are some locations where a private lot is going to be a better fit. For example, one of the locations we're looking at is the Market 32 TJ Maxx shopping area. We're in active discussions with that property owner. Excuse me. So the agreement's been reviewed by the city attorney's office. We would be, like I said, taking it bring it here to commission and then to council, seeking approval of it as a generic template. Obviously, as we get into negotiations with a specific property owner, there may be tweaks that we'll need to make to this. If those changes are substantial, we will come back to you for approval of the agreement. But if they are, within substantially in the form of this agreement, or I would say within the spirit and intent of the terms and conditions as drafted, we will not be coming back, every single time for approval of individual agreements that we execute. And yeah.
Are we discussing this because the monetary value of this agreement rises to something that you need the commission approval for?
No.
No, there's no, there's no monetary, there's no financial transaction here. The property owner would not be charging us rent to put the chargers there. We would not be charging the property owner anything. It gives us the ability and right and ability to install infrastructure on their property, and then sets out terms for what happens, who's going to take care of it, how promptly will we respond if there are issues, what happens if they don't want them there anymore or we decide to remove them, those kinds of considerations. How will snow removal be handled? How will parking enforcement be handled? That kind of thing. So we're not strictly required to bring it to you by the terms of the purchasing policy, because there is no purchase here. It's just more in wanting it to be discussed in public session and make you aware of it. Anything I missed, Munir, that you want to add?
Oh, you're muted.
Yes, I think you covered it, Emily. Thanks.
I love it. It seems like a no-brainer. I had two small questions. One, so is the EV charging rate that you can charge is actually regulated? it
Yes.
says? Okay, so when you are saying that the charging is a lower price, it's actually because it's regulated to that price?
Yeah, so ours is 22 cents a kilowatt hour right now, I
Yes.
believe, is our tariffed rate. And at least as a driver, I think that's maybe the lowest rate I've seen in the state for a fast charger, for example.
Unless all utility-run chargers in the state would have to do that rate?
Not the exact rate. If it's a publicly owned utility charger, like we have, then you would have a tariff for it that says this is the rate that it'll be. If it's a private charger, there may not be constraints on the rate, and different utilities might have different cost bases, so they may have different rates for their charging. So ours happens to be at 22 cents.
That's what was approved by the utility.
That's right. And when we
Okay.
do rate cases, that changes by the percentage that we have a rate case, for example. So it's gone up moderately over the last couple of years, but for fast chargers in particular, it's one of the lowest rates that I've seen in the region.
Which is, something we're considering, right, is differentiating that maybe, so that it's, this rate for the level 2s and a different rate for the level 3s. We haven't done that yet. We have the ability in the tariff to differentiate, but we've got the same value right now. We're also likely to be bringing you an amendment to that tariff to change the penalty for staying in the charging spot once you're done charging. Right now, I think it's 4 hours
It is.
before you start getting fees incurred, which is okay for level 2, but not really doesn't make sense for level 1 for fast charging. So we'll be
Probably should be an hour.
yeah, bringing forward a change to differentiate that.
And then I just had a small one. What's the risk here? Like, I see that they have to keep it for 3 years, but is that the risk that you put in all the money and then there's, I would assume, a significant cost to take it out? Or
That's right, yeah. I mean, the charging equipment itself can be, reinstalled somewhere else. And Munir can speak to this more than I can. It's the civil work to put the electrical infrastructure in.
The line extension to get to the equipment, yes.
What percentage of the cost is that?
Oh, it depends really, it's site specific.
Right.
Depends if it's going to be underground or overhead. But really the plan is trying to not to use concrete as much as we can for for the conduit system and use Schedule 80 to minimize the cost. And we're looking to see if we can. We're looking to see if we can minimize the cost of the civil work, which include the vaults and for the transformers as well as the EV charging stations.
They look great and exciting to me.
Yeah, love it.
All right, anyone else?
And how many do you have a prospectus of how many, or is that the right word, of how many different, like a list of places that you're looking at that?
Yeah, we do. It's not quite ready for prime time yet. But yes, like I said, we've, schools and parks and, municipal parking lots, right, are certainly on that list. But then there are some areas of the city where there just isn't one of those types of properties. If you think about like North Winooski Avenue, for example, right, kind of a busy commercial district, but not a lot of like city-owned property on that street, for example. So that could be another area where we might want to look to partner with a business or something.
I'm sure there's a couple places there that would be
Yeah.
happy to
Right.
take it, yeah. Cool.
Are we ready to have a motion?
Sure. I move the Electric Commission approve and recommend to the City Council approve the use of the proposed electric vehicle charging infrastructure agreement as a generic site license agreement for BED-owned public EVs charging stations on private property.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank
Right.
you.
Good.
Motion passes.
And on a related note, I know it's gone back and forth, and last time I heard positive news, but, some of the more national stuff has pointed to some negative, where we stand with all those
Bless you.
85, with all that big, huge tranche of chargers that we could have, would have, should have gotten, and where that.
We remain frozen and in a holding pattern with our grant. Emily just sent a note in the last week to the FHWA requesting, I think it's the 6th time maybe, that we've requested to get clarity on when they would plan to obligate the grant and release the funding, which they are supposed to do per Congress. And of course, there's the shutdown now, so we don't know if who's able to respond or who's available to respond, but we remain in a holding pattern there. So the work we're doing on the EV site license agreement, those would be revenue bond funded, but they would not benefit from the grant unless it's unlocked by that period when we're putting those in.
Okay, are we ready to move on to miscellaneous service fees? Great.
All right. Ready when you are. Should I share screen? Is that helpful, or just kind of talk you through? I included a memo in the packet and then a table summary of the proposed fees.
Yeah, maybe pull up the table
The
summary.
table? Okay, sure.
That might help.
Yep. So, get that ready. So as the commission is aware, the commission approved a previous proposal last spring of 2024. We were delayed in filing that proposal with the Public Utility Commission. We filed it this summer. The Department of Public Service let us know that they found some discrepancies in our calculations. We took a look. We found that they were right. And so what we decided to do was withdraw the filing since some time had passed, correct those discrepancies, and then while we were at it, just update everything to the more current costs. So the labor rates have gone up here from FY24 rates to FY26 rates. The fringe benefit rate has changed slightly. In that interim period, we also reviewed and revised what we call our vehicle rates. And so if we bill a customer for work that involves, a metering truck or a line truck needing to be used, there's time associated with the wear and tear on that vehicle that we charge. And so some of these fees require vehicle time. We updated those. There were a couple changes in positions due to retirements and replacements, some retirements of people who held grandfathered positions, so the position no longer exists. So we made a few of those changes. And let me just think if there was another major thing that we did methodology-wise. Updated materials costs and the store's clearing rate. Okay. And so with that, what we're now proposing is a change in the initial service fee from $30 for returning customers to $5. For new customers, the fee would drop from $30 to $15. If the initial service is requested outside of regular business hours, that would drop from $195 now to $109. Reconnection fee would increase from $20 to $26. Reconnection after hours would decrease from $195 to $130. Temporary service would increase from $535 to $882. Returned check would increase by $9 from $10 to $19, and a bit of an update here for those who were on the commission in spring 2024. TD Bank is no longer charging us the returned check fee, so this would have been $29 with that fee, so now it's just covering the cost of our time for processing those checks that are returned for insufficient funds. Meter removal and replacement would rise from $95 to $165. The collection fee would be eliminated, no longer charged. And then what's now called the customer assistance call fee would be renamed, as we discussed before, to power problem investigation. That's the customer's responsibility. That would go up to $156. If that investigation had to occur after hours, it would be $562. Also want to clarify that any of these fees, particularly the after-hours ones, the person answering the phone in dispatch lets the person know what the fee would be before the customer makes that decision to have us go out and investigate or take care of whatever the problem is. And then 4 new proposed fees, for which we're not charging at all right now, for disconnects and reconnects when a customer or their contractor needs our help to disconnect and reconnect the electric service, usually for some sort of work being done on the property. The fees will vary depending on whether there's a single meter or multiple meters at the location and whether or not the underground service is required, which involves the line crew. So you're sending another truck and another 2 people, essentially. That accounts for the cost difference. And those would range from $577 to $885. And then the last thing maybe I'll highlight about the proposal is just the net effect of what all these changes would mean for BED's operating revenues. We're estimating an increase in operating revenues of about $38,000. Basically what happens is that the initial service fee drops quite a bit. That's not a high fee, but we do many of them, right? And so that would reduce revenue, and then the disconnect, reconnect fees would add revenue with a net positive effect of about $38,000. I think I'll stop there. Happy to take any questions.
I know we went into a lot of depth when we talked about this last time, and I know some time has passed, and so appreciation for you taking a fresh look since when it was reopened and digging back in. So just appreciation for all the dialogue that's gotten us here and all the diligence. The one thing I'll just say that still feels a little hard, and I know we talked about it last time, but I just can't help myself but say it, is just the charge for Reconnect. Like, not the ones where it's a contractor or other places, but the $26, and just feels hard with, especially with the urge is so high and asking people to pay to be reconnected to power. But I get why you have to do it. You have to run a business, and there's all the other reasons too. So I get it all. It's just still hard to see.
What else needs to happen to get reconnected? Does part of the bill need to be paid?
Sometimes. It used to be, like our current tariff says that this fee is charged only when you're reconnecting following a disconnect for non-payment. And we're proposing that we change that definition to be reconnect for any reason. Right, whatever the reason that your power was off in the first place, if we need to reconnect it, we would charge that fee.
Where does Alan's question come into play in all this? Just out of
What was his
curiosity.
question?
Where does Alan come into play in all this?
I think
know
his
those-
was the $30 fee
Yeah.
currently.
He's the
that
$30
goes down to
fee.
$5.
That would go to $5
5, okay.
I think
for
he was
standing
pleased with
orders.
that.
Yeah.
He's happy.
I'm sure he is. And how much, have you taken a look at now that you've come up with these numbers? Maybe it might be apples to oranges, but how it aligns with, and I know that was part of his argument too, which is how it aligns with other utilities around the state or of similar size, or where is there an alignment there that makes that seem?
Yeah, there is in some
sort of
cases. I
justified.
haven't redone that since last year, to be honest. So I don't have new information beyond what I shared, like in January or February of 2024 on that.
I think we had looked at GMP and VEC.
And VAC, yeah.
So we
yeah.
looked at the two other biggest utilities and compared.
Comparison for all.
Yep.
I have some questions. Were you gonna go?
You can go
No?
first. I have a
Okay.
question.
So a couple, when you look on the estimated revenue impact table, it says billing determinant. Am I correct in interpreting that as it's the number of times that this was charged?
That's
Okay.
right. Yep, that's regulatory speak.
So for the power problem investigation, customer responsibility ones, is it true that it was 0 times that happened? Okay, got
Yeah.
it. So, okay, and then what is an example where the customer has to pay for it? Like, can you give an example of when this actually does happen? It sounds rare, obviously, but like.
Yeah, my understanding, it's something like, my lights are flickering. I think something's wrong with the electrical service.
I see.
Right. Can you come take a look? And, our team here will do their best to sort of like help to troubleshoot or kind of do what they can over the phone. And they'll tell the customer, we can take a look, but this is what we'll have to charge if we get out there and we find it's not a problem with our wiring, it's a problem with your wiring, right?
Yep.
And sometimes the customer says, sure, I want you to come see. And so then if it is a problem with our service, then we fix it at no cost. But if it turns out that the issue is something within the property's wiring on their side of the meter, then, we've just gone out there for nothing, basically.
Okay.
To tell them that something's wrong with the wiring in their property, and then that's when that fee would get incurred.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So under collection, it says current fee 20, and then proposed fee, on the table, it says 68. Is that
So-
just an error?
No, that's the cost, right? So, we did the math on like, what would it cost if we charged a collection fee? And it's $68, right? But we're not proposing to charge anything because we're not, yeah.
Okay.
We're just proposing to eliminate it. That's just to show you the cost basis, for that activity, for that work.
Okay, got it. It's a little confusing because it's called proposed fees in that column.
Is my column messed up? Okay.
Yeah, it's in this one. That's what I'm talking about there. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't,
Oh.
I think there's supposed to be a line.
maybe,
See
Yep,
this?
yep, something got moved over a
Yeah.
column.
Oh, no.
Yep, you're right. Well,
Okay.
thank you, I'll fix that.
great. And then my last set of questions is around the Connect,
Disconnect, reconnect ones?
yeah, the 577 and on up ones.
Mm-hmm.
And so, first question is, does that get charged, so say someone's having their service changed or something substantial done, if you have to come out and disconnect and then reconnect, do they get charged $577 each time? So 577?
No, it's $577 for going out to turn off and then going back to turn back on.
Okay, regardless if it's in the same,
Day or no, yeah, it could
Okay.
be the next day.
okay,
Yeah.
got it. And then, doesn't this fee create a disincentive for, like, electrification where people have to do a service upgrade? Because if you want to get a level 2 charger or put in a heat pump or do some other activity, right, and all of a sudden, you're adding $577 to it. And I understand that the money's got to come from somewhere, but did you contemplate that in regard to this fee?
We did, yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, to the extent that those calls are being driven by a panel upgrade for someone who's installing an EV charger or something, then yes, it is adding to the cost of electrification for that customer. And I guess, yeah, the policy question is, we're finding that we're doing more and more of these, right? And they are expensive, right? It's taking a lot of crew time, right? And so generally, there's a utility principle of cost causer pays, right? And
Say
so
that again?
cost causer pays, right? And so if the line crew is doing work on, projects that serve everyone's reliability, then it's fair for all ratepayers to share in that cost. But if the line crew, the metering crew are going out to one individual's home to do the one thing for their, for their property, it's not, right now, all ratepayers are paying for those visits.
Yep.
So yes, you're right. To the extent that that work is being driven by electrification, it is a disincentive. On the other hand, we have 21,000 customers, and they're not all getting that service every year, right? Only, about 200 of them, requested that kind of service last year. So that's really the decision.
Thanks.
Be interesting, not on this side, but on the rebate side, if there's something for lower income coverage of that fee, for in a rebate or something like that, so it is an additional cost.
Part of this really just speaks to the regulatory kind of construct, but part of the challenge is with the rebates, we already offer the enhanced low moderate income incentive, and sometimes that puts us near the alternative compliance payment level with tier 3 at least, so we may not have as much room to move, and there's no real kind of incentive or rebate allowance for electric panel upgrades. They've been built into some programs, the Switch and Save program for water heaters for income qualified customers. There was a built-in kind of piece around electric panels. There was briefly, while we had the federal credits, a $600 incentive for electric panel upgrades, which is now not there. And within our program structure, efficiency and tier 3, we don't have kind of a allowance for electric panel upgrade incentives. And I'm not sure, it's not a good idea to have something like that. This is probably correct in the sense that it's following the utility practices Emily laid out, but whether we could do something to offset on the other side or get some authority to allow for that, it's a good question. Fair question.
That
Be
jumped
interested
out
in
for
that.
me too. I think solar is a similar one, which
Yes.
I'm a new commissioner, so I'm not clear on sort of the perspective of how much you actually want in a residential environment within Burlington, but it's another, you're about to lose the whole federal incentive, and then it's another 577 or 6 or whatever it is on top of that. So cost is gonna be pretty prohibitive.
It's absolutely, and it's not even just this context, but there's a bigger kind of utility question. Like, we've had debates in the state about, should all ratepayers pay to upgrade a line to 3-phase service if a solar project's trying to connect to it? Or should the solar project have to pay for that? What gets socialized within the rate base versus what's discrete to the customer is kind of a live conversation across a few different contexts. So, yeah, solar could be one of them. This is certainly one of them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then I just had, this is an idea, so maybe it's annoying, but like instead of the reconnection charge per your question, maybe there's a way, if there's an incentive, if you pay a portion of your bill, then you can get it reconnected or something. Maybe it's the same idea, but if someone's getting disconnected for non-payment of bill, instead of an additional $26 charge, could it be, hey, pay 50 towards your bill or 26 towards your bill? And then, but maybe that's the same thing, but I'm assuming their bill will stay the same, but they paid another 26 just to get service. Does
That's
that make
right.
sense?
And it's the same question of kind of, should all ratepayers pay for that customer's reconnection, or should that customer be responsible? And we do have budget payment plans that we offer for a customer in that situation to try to make it more kind of digestible and finance over with no interest, but finance essentially over a period of 12 months. So there's different ways we can make it a little more affordable to cover it. But these are these questions of, should that be in the rate base or should it be discrete to that customer? And there could be situations where, you know, a customer might cause that to happen multiple times, and I don't know, there's some interesting
Right.
questions around that.
And that just helped me get to the thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around. So it sounds like you did a really thorough cost analysis. When this goes for approval, do you just state when there's a judgment or priorities decision made outside of what the cost is? Because most of this is like, it costs $577, we're charging $577, but it sounds like there's some instances where you're gonna say, we're actually not gonna charge the actual cost per our philosophy or what? How does that work in terms of getting that approved? Or is it all directly cost related? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's all, so the collection fee is the only one that we're eliminating. And if the description of that from the current tariff is, it's charged when someone goes to a customer's property and actually like takes cash or a check payment like at the house or at the business. So it's a bit of an anachronism because this was, the tariff was written at a time when you had to do physical door knocker and door hanger notice of prior to disconnection. The PUC rules around disconnection have changed to reflect the ability for AMI systems to do remote turnoffs. It used to be you couldn't disconnect someone's power without going to the location. Now we can. And so there was a business practice that was, hi, you know, we've sent you 3 warnings. Sorry, we have to turn off your power. I'm here to disconnect your power. But if you can pay me right now, like,
Right.
I won't, you know, turn off your power. And we would charge someone $20 in addition to, you know, the money that was owed to us, right? So that too was kind of a punitive fee. And so we're not sending people generally to properties prior to disconnect. And the idea that, you know, we'd have people like making change and taking cash, I mean, just not, not today's world. But in general, yes, these, the proposed fees are based on the costs rounded to the nearest dollar.
So all of them are?
Yes, they all
Okay,
are, yep.
that's
And when
helpful.
we file this with the Public Utility Commission for each fee, in that summary table, there's a tab of a worksheet that shows, okay, reconnection after hours involves 15 minutes of a
Right, so
dispatcher's
they
time,
look-
15 minutes of shift premium pay, and an hour of a customer care rep's time, because that's what the union contract requires for minimum call after hours, for example. And if something requires, wires and fasteners, like, that's in there too. So it's costed out pretty detailed.
And that's what they require?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, that helps. That's all clear to me.
Any other questions?
In terms of timing, I think we discussed this, just to reiterate, so if this passes tonight, it's gonna get submitted to the Board of Finance at their next meeting, which is next week,
21st.
21st, and then it'll go before the full council in early November.
Possibly the 21st also. If not the 21st, then, yeah, early November.
Okay, and so if it passes tonight and in both of those, when do you anticipate submitting it?
I think we could submit it in November or December, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
We would consult again with the Department of Public Service,
Yeah.
make sure that they see everything the way that we've seen it here. And that would be the one variable I wanted to call out, and why I don't propose that we have any kind of ironclad commitment, because if they say, oh, this needs to be adjusted this way, or we see something here, we want to be able to be responsive to that.
Do you think you have some confidence that they will be responsive at all in review?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay, great. So, is there a motion? Does anyone
Sure.
hold a motion? Thank you.
I move to recommend that the Board of Finance and City Council authorize BED to submit the proposed changes to the miscellaneous service fee tariff to the Vermont Public Utility Commission for approval.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, IT update.
So Erica and I are going to tag team on this one. What we've proposed on the agenda is that we provide a general IT update in public session, and then we have a cybersecurity update that we would suggest be provided in executive session. So I'll share the general ones, and then you can drive on the cyber ones. Does that work? Okay. And generally, we come before the Commissioner Kenny, for your benefit, we give an IT update every year. Usually it's October, sometime in the fall. And we could come back more often, but we do see you at least once a year on this topic. So just a pretty high level for the public discussion, giving a sense of our IT environment, broadly speaking, some of the current projects the IT team has going on, our work around people and processes, and some of the more major roadmap items if we look out, about 5 years or so. So this is a kind of standard IT architecture layer cake. The layers of the cake are from business services down to networking are pretty standard for any kind of organization that has an IT function. What makes Burlington Electric different and most other utilities different is that we really have kind of 3 layer cakes, 3 stacks We have what we call the business or the business environment, which you can think of as the traditional IT, you know, Windows and email and file servers, identity management, all of that stuff. And then we have what we call the smart grid network or the advanced metering infrastructure network. Those are our meters and the collectors, and they have a separate network and switches and infrastructure. All those layers exist to support that system. And then third, we have a SCADA or operational technology environment, which is what the system operators use to operate and control the system, as well as controls that are generating assets. So it's really kind of three layer cakes living together. Big stuff going on with the IT team at the moment. Some commissioners will be familiar with the phrase IT forward. That was the label applied to a big initiative to do a bunch of enterprise application upgrades and or replacements. That was started in 2017-ish and is continuing today. I have a detailed slide on that. Windows 11 sunsets at the end of, Windows 10 sunsets at the end of October. So we're busily upgrading all of these devices to Windows 11. There are a few upgrades and replacements happening with generation systems. IT is working closely with the new generation team to do an assessment of kind of what's what at Winooski 1 and McNeil and the GT, make sure there's a good inventory and a good understanding of what the equipment is and expected life and replacement cycle and all of that. And then this will be on the roadmap. We'll need to replace our data center infrastructure, and so they're looking at different virtualization products and options. Anything big there that?
Well, so last year we focused on the DR, and we replaced the DR system.
Disaster recovery.
Thank you, sorry. And then now we have to go back and our production system is coming of age, as we say. So we're planning on replacing that in the upcoming year. But what has changed is some of the licensing for virtualization has dramatically increased. So we're looking at what the right virtualization technology is going to be. So my team has labbed a bunch of different solutions. They're having a good time figuring it all out and looking for that solution for the next year.
So this is the detail I promised on IT Forward. The big message here is there's a lot going on. The top two systems are live, meter data management, and we replaced our SCADA system last fall. In process of being implemented right now are the kind of second phase of SCADA, which is the distributed management system, gives our operators more sophisticated tools, replacing altogether the customer system, along with it the customer web portal, along with it a mobile workforce solution, and then final phase of SCADA, which hooks into the new customer system, would be an outage management system, and then switching payment processor, which we mentioned here a few months ago. So that will go live, the DMS will go live this fall. All the customer bundle of stuff will go live next spring. And then we're in the vendor selection process on potential change to our bill print provider and adding an IVR. This is like a fancy phone system that will connect to the outage management system and the customer information system. So a DERMS would give them kind of one platform to see all the different fleets of resources that can be deployed at different times and scheduling them and get data back all in one system.
Do you have a projected date when that gray phase that's in vendor selection would be implemented?
Implemented? Yeah, so BillPrint and IVR would actually get implemented with this, all the customer stuff in the spring.
Okay.
FIS, we have been targeting July 1, 2027. But that kind of is subject to like what the vendor thinks is best practice. We've been assuming it's better to switch accounting systems coincident with the start of a new fiscal year. But there are different schools of thought on that. So that's the current plan, but that if the vendor is like, no, that's a terrible idea, and, you know, this is why you should do it in October, then, you know, we'll listen to that advice. Work and asset would go together probably with the financials at the same time, whenever that is. And then DERMS is not a long, not a long implementation. It's not that complicated. So that would hopefully be next spring also.
Next spring. When you said 2027 for the financial, the FIS, is that really 2027?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's going to take at least a year.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Alongside all the technology work, you know, all of this, right, is prompting conversations about business process all over the place. And so all of those projects have been good skill building for the team in terms of understanding the software implementation lifecycle, going through vendor selection processes, doing business process mapping and review, understanding how to be specific and articulate requirements to vendors, managing vendors, having, you know, good debates internally about how something should be done or what the requirements are for a given process, and just general support of collaboration within the organization. Thinking about change management for all of those systems, for me, the manual to paper to automated digital is a big part of that. Maybe the biggest part of that, though, I would say would be our maturity and facility with data in general. We are going to have more people in the organization that will have access to more data. And so, and they'll spend less time like taking output and making a report, and then but instead the report will be ready for them to actually look at and think about and then take other action. So how people spend their time will change, and the tools they will have at their fingertips will be a lot more sophisticated. So it's going to impact people's work in some areas quite a lot. So just wanted to share that, you know, it's something I'm watching and kind of trying to keep an eye on and kind of lead people thoughtfully through that transition. Okay, last slide, I think, on this, which is high level. So FY27 would complete that long list of software implementations. Erica mentioned that our production data center hardware will need to be replaced. That's why they're studying virtualization options. Continually throughout all of this, there's a whole bunch of ongoing gear replacement, hardware replacement, security improvements that the team is doing. And then in FY29, this is just a guess. At some point, we're going to need to replace the AMI system because it was installed in 2012. So the meters are now fully depreciated. They've been out there for 12, 13 years. So we're monitoring their failure rates. They're not at a high level yet. We also don't want to get to a cliff where we have to replace all 21,000 meters within 6 months because we don't have the resources, the people to physically do that. So we want to catch it where we still have time and are able to replace them over, say, a 3-year period or something like that. But deciding kind of when exactly we need to start is the trick. We don't want to do it before we have to, obviously, either. So that's something kind of we're monitoring as well. Not exactly sure when it will fall, but and we would do a full-blown RFP and rebid that entire thing. May stay with the same vendor, may not, depending on the results of that procurement process. It's a big enough investment that we'll competitively bid it. And I think that's all I had, just on general IT stuff. So any questions before we flip to cyber?
Not really a question, but it sounds like a lot. What are the, I mean, I think one of the things from experience that is hard is to ensure your business processes are ideal, so you don't have to deal with customization and long implementation plans. And it seems like having enough staff and all the regulation stuff going on, like what are your concerns here? What could go wrong that we need to be watching with all the volume of updates?
Yeah, I would say we are monitoring resource and kind of team help, definitely. Both we and the vendor are kind of keeping an eye on that. Particularly, when I say the vendor, I mean primarily the customer information system. That's right now the big lift that's touching more areas of the organization than any of the other things on the list. So yeah, there's timeline risk associated with that. If people are not able to sort of keep up, right, with the project, then the timeline slips. And yeah, I mean, just the risk of stress and burnout.
There aren't like billing risks if something doesn't go right with transitions with all
Oh,
the
yeah,
customer
that's
things
for
or
sure.
service risks
Yep.
or.
Yep, all of that is for sure, yep.
One of the things that Emily spoke about but didn't get super deep into was the change management, the organizational change management. And we really are encouraging teams. So first of all, and this is different than a lot of implementations I've been through at other places, right? The core team has been involved in every step, from coming up with requirements, looking at business needs, looking at processes even before the RFP went out, and then deeply involved in the selection, asking the vendors questions, being very comfortable with the choices that were made and why. And then as we have started the implementation, particularly with the customer information system, which is where the big focus is right now, we're looking for ways to not do things the hard way, right? Because we've done a lot of things the very hard way because our system, our current customer and financial system is based on a very old platform. And it doesn't have the flexibility and it's not nimble, right? And no, look, we've invested in processes and tools, and now you don't have to do things the hard way. So that's a constant theme that our project management team has really been encouraged to talk about with the individual project teams, to keep that idea in mind. I don't want to do stuff the hard way anymore.
Okay.
Can you send us we didn't get the presentation in our packet, right?
No.
Okay, can you send it to us after?
Yep.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, we only talk about this we talk about IT once a year. So, and is there a way we'll be updated on sort of the progress on these or
Yeah,
risks or some kind of thing that can we don't need to talk about it, but just as a view into that?
So as like major milestones are hit, I'll put them in the monthly report. I haven't been including, work continues, because we're kind of still just sort of slogging away through things. But certainly when we hit go lives, those will be appeared in the monthly report.
And I think red flags.
And, yeah,
to be
we
aware
can,
of,
yeah, put in any risks. What else was I just gonna say? Oh, as those vendor selection decisions are made, we will come back here
Right.
for approval of those contracts. So that will be another touch point.
Yep.
Great. We good to move to executive session?
Sure. I'll move to find that premature public knowledge, rather, regarding cybersecurity would clearly place the Burlington Electric Department at a substantial disadvantage per Title I, Section 313, A1 of Vermont statutes.
Is there a
So don't we have
a
to,
second,
oh, wait,
maybe?
second? Yeah, yeah.
I
wait,
made the
do-
motion.
Did you read the complete motion?
I think
Yeah.
There's two
more.
motions,
I don't-
there's two motions within this motion.
Second.
Oh, yep.
Do we have discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 I move that the commission enter into executive session to discuss cybersecurity under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1A of Vermont statutes.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 So last agenda item is the commissioner's check-in. Do we have anybody who has anything they wanted to check in from the meeting?
Yes.
tonight?
I just wanted to get back to the question of arrearages. And both General Manager Springer and Mike had mentioned that there was a plan in place about, or some sort of we sort of touched on that, but didn't really kind of go with that. And is that something that's still in formulation that maybe we'll see at a future meeting of some kind of you'd alluded to a plan going forward to kind of try to find some
Yeah.
ways to mitigate that. And
I think
and
it's,
yeah.
it just comes down to staff capacity, to go out and make the phone calls and do the outreach and kind of go through the process that we go through. And I think due to a variety of circumstances, we had the unfortunate passing of one of our customer care reps, Sue Boomhover, several months back. And we were without kind of a full team for a period of time. And we've got a full team now, and we also are going to add some temporary staffing capacity to address the need for customer care to be engaged in some of the IT systems changes, because a lot of them, the customer information system, for example, impacts customer care quite a bit. So we need some capacity there as well. But it really boils down to that, and we've got a plan in place to dedicate a more significant portion of our staffing time to doing that outreach and going through the process to hopefully get more customers back on track with the arrearages. And we report on the data, obviously monthly, so you'll get the updated data over the next couple months to be able to see if we were able to make an impact there. There will be, once we hit the winter prohibition on disconnect for non-payment, you could see that, whatever progress we make, you could see some backsliding there.
Some stalling out, yeah.
Potentially. So we can keep updated through the dashboard, and we can talk about it at the next meeting for certain.
Yeah.
And-
It's just, yeah, okay. It's getting to an alarming rate. That's all. That definitely got my
Agreed.
bells and whistles dinging.
And winter, I understand the part that you can't shut it off, but how does that affect the total dollar value? Because once there's a shut off, does that fall off the books?
Well, it happens to be the case, at least in
No.
some instances, where the various kind of progressive process you go through with a customer who isn't paying ultimately leads to a suspension of service, a disconnection for non-payment, and that may cause the payment to come in
Okay.
where maybe it wouldn't have otherwise. So you're removing a tool in the toolbox for good reason, for reasons we
Right.
understand, but it may lead customers who were not being responsive to be less responsive during that period
Clear.
of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Any other commissioner check-in comments or questions?
That was my big one.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Marathon.